Welcome back to the Thinking Critical Comic Book Podcast. It's time for the best damn comic book show on YouTube and the interwebs. It's time for the Comics Aficionados. We didn't have a whole lot of controversy this week, but we did have some pretty big news from Marvel DC. We're going to debate how we would fix comic books. It seemed like I got a lot of feedback on that video, so we're going to have a lot of fun. We got a fantastic panel. First off, I want to say congratulations to Eric Canete. You launched Arc Athena. I almost got you to launch it a month early last time you were here.
Yeah,
but you held off.
Yeah,
and, so far so good.
Was,
over $25,000 in the first couple days.
It's pretty exciting for sure. I'm really appreciative of everybody who's supporting the book so far. Although in my head it's pretty surreal, but thank you everyone. Appreciate it.
All right, well we got something. I'm going to put this one on here. This is Eric talking about the book.
Big action adventure comics versus aliens. An 11x17 black and white artist edition. And a 9x12 art book called Drop 2021. My name is Eric Canete, and this is the Indiegogo campaign for Arc Athena 1.
Arc Athena is a team of super beings fighting an alien threat from deep space. But that's a show you're meant to see. That's the distraction. Behind the scenes is Arc Poseidon. They're responsible for the awful things that need to be done in order to keep the world safe. Arc Athena, book 1 of 6, is a 64-page hardcover comic book with 48 pages of story and 13 pages of bonus material. The Arc Athena Artist Edition is a black and white 11x17-inch reproduction of the main comic with more exclusive extras like unused pages and production art. And finally, my latest art book called Drop 2021. It's a big 64-page compilation of my most recent sketches and commission work from the past year and a half.
So there you go. Thanks for watching, and thank you for backing this project.
One last thing. All these books are already done and at the printers, and soon ready to be delivered into your hands. This is only possible because of the amazing team working on this miniseries.
Holy crap, Eric. I need to get you to work on my visuals. That was impressive.
Fuck yes. Is that artist edition going to have lettering in it also?
0%.
Okay.
What?
I'm sure my letterer...
Yul, did you see the look on his face? He almost cried.
Well, I want to get that. And, sometimes words get in the way.
And Tevye asked, where can we buy it? You can go to Indiegogo right now. There is a link in the video description if you are interested in Arc Athena and have not backed it yet. Obviously, the campaign is going to be up for, is it 30 days total, Eric, or are you going to do the 60 days?
Yep,
30 days?
30 days, and that's it, because we got to move on to the next issue. It's 6 issues total, so I have 5 issues left to campaign.
The book is already printed. It's ready to go. So as soon as the campaign's over, you probably will start distributing within a couple weeks once you get the money from Indiegogo.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Things are going very well. And if you have not checked that out, definitely go check out the Indiegogo link in the video description. Eric, is there anything else you wanted to say to anyone that has or might be thinking about backing this?
No, I just want to double down on thank you. Everybody else who are either considering it or have already backed it, that's a big feather in my cap. Thank you, everybody. This has been incredibly exciting and humbling. So thanks for being here.
Awesome. Well, glad you could make it. We've also got back from Berkeley, California, Fantastic Comics Uel Carter. I've invited him on the channel multiple times. He's like, listen, I'm busy, Wes. I've got conventions to go to. I got my DC whatever shipment didn't show up till Saturday. I've got to work and everything. So you finally made it. Glad you could be back.
Oh, thank you. And actually this Wednesday we actually had all the books at the same time. It was amazing. Wow. A Wednesday. It was a Wednesday.
How often does that happen?
Well, recently it hasn't been happening the last few weeks, and it's extended my days where I had to be in other places to receive stuff, and it was a big old hassle. It happens, a lot of changeover with people's staffs, like UPS and things like that. So you just got to understand and hope it doesn't happen again.
Well, with the holidays coming up and with all the issues with shipping going on, it's likely to continue to happen and actually get worse.
Yeah, that's where. All right, so the one thing I will say really quickly: if you are loyal to your comic store, it's cool. If you're not, some people just like to be a butterfly and just go or a hummingbird or whatever. Just buy comics from everywhere. That's cool. But if you're loyal to your store and they don't have it until Friday or Saturday, please don't go shop elsewhere. I'm going to be stuck on those books I didn't want to get except for you.
Kenneth Dowling is here supporting the channel. Hello, folks. Glad to see everyone in the panel. Awesome presentation, Mr. Canete. Congratulations to you. I love comics and hearing people to comics. So congratulations. And also, don't forget that Tim Lim, Mark Pellegrini, friends of the channel, they also have a Kickstarter going up right now for their 4th edition of Common America. It's already over 100,000, so that's absolutely a huge success. Also with Iconic Comics, the company that Eric is doing Arc Athena through, and also completely done and printed and ready to distribute as soon as the campaign's over. I will have Mark on the channel tomorrow. We're going to talk a little bit about TMNT and the end of Mirage Studios. So we'll be talking about that project as well tomorrow. So thank you very much, Kenneth. And don't forget about our friends, Mark Pellegrini and Tim Lim. Who else we got on the panel? Joe Corallo. We haven't seen you in a hot minute. You got a nice haircut now. Eric Canete wants to know is it product? How do you do that with your hair?
Oh, I don't use product. I barely use conditioner, but yes, no, it's you just got to be Joe, and you can't teach people that.
It just happens.
Perfect answer.
Also, we've got Nerdygirlcreates, a newer YouTuber. How's everything going over at the YouTube channel right now?
Doing good so far. How's everything going with you, Wes?
I'm doing fantastic. Is your stalker still there? Are they still bothering you?
No, he's gone.
There you go. Well, at least they decided to leave you alone. So if you want the latest, you get a manga review every Monday. She also talks a little bit of crap now and then and reviews other comics. So definitely go support Nerdygirlcreates. There's also a link to that YouTube channel in the video description, as well as Uel Carter's Fantastic Comics. Forgot to mention that one.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Kenneth Dowling, hearing people talk about comics. Oh, yeah, that last sentence was a little off. I love comics and hearing people talk about comics. There you go. That makes a little bit more sense. Thank you very much, Kenneth. Last but not least, Doc, we just recorded tomorrow's This Week at X-Men. Had a lot of fun, a lot of news for X-Men. How you doing? You ready to go to the Bed Bath & Beyond? It's a big Saturday for you.
No, but I think I am going to maybe go to a big comics basement sale. They got like 500,000 books. So I might. I'm debating. I can't decide if I want to drive all the way up that way. It's a little bit of a hike for me, because it's one of the further, it's out of like the 25 comic shops around me. That's the furthest one, of course. So, yeah.
Oh, man. We've got a great question to open this thing up. Joe, this is from Callum Lyle. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Do you think you sound like Jeff Goldblum?
No, but life finds a way.
And he nailed it.
There you go. So if you don't think you sound like Jeff Goldblum, that's what Jeff Goldblum sounds like to Jeff Goldblum, because he sounds like that to everybody else. So you got it in your head. And thank you very much for supporting the channel, Callum Lyle. Really appreciate it. So George Redden, well, I'm glad you could make it for the early portion. I hope you enjoy the rerun as we get the playback. And don't forget, if you want to be in your car and listen to this, it'll be up on the podcast tomorrow for Comics Aficionados. I'm sorry, for Thinking Critical Comic Book Podcast. All right, let's get to the first topic, the first order of the day. And I had a video talking about 5 easy fixes and kind of why they're not as easy as you think. And I was like, it seemed like people enjoyed the video, got a little conversation going. I thought we would talk to this esteemed panel. We got a couple of comic book creators. We've got a critic. We got a retailer, and we've got Doc. He's what are you, Doc? Are you the salt of the earth?
That's awesome.
I'm just kind of the asshole. I'm the designated asshole for the panel.
And we got the asshole of the panel, Doc, here to talk about it. So let's do it to Eric first. Obviously you're back in the comic game. You got Arc Athena going. I think you were still reading comics, but you weren't really in the industry for quite some time. You were off doing your own thing. Yeah. Now that you've come back, is there anything that really stands out to you that you think would really be maybe not an easy fix, but something that you think if the comic industry needed to address, they should address it first?
Yeah, the first thing that I'd recognize, because there was such a huge gap between the time that I stopped and the time that I started picking it up again, is the cover price. And I don't know how to fix that, you know? I don't know, because I don't know if it's even trending towards, inflation, whether or not that's the appropriate number that should be on there, plus profit or whatever. But when I saw that astronomical, I don't know how a $5 comic book, 6 going on 7, I don't know how that's going to compete in an industry of like disposable entertainment.
Absolutely. I've looked at the inflation rates, and based on the little inflation calculator, comic books should be about $2.50 based on the numbers, I believe, in the 70s. You go a little bit earlier, it's even different. But unfortunately, those things do change a little bit, Joe. As someone that's also in the industry, what are your thoughts on cover price? Do you think that's a real inhibitor, or a real thing that needs to be addressed or could be addressed?
Oh, I think so. I mean, it's too much. It's it's especially the past couple of years, everything's crept up even more. Now there's a lot of $4.99 books, but
we're seeing a lot of $6 launches for #1 titles from Marvel and DC now.
Yeah, and you're seeing, you get the was it the covers, the stiff cover stock? I'm trying to think, what is cardstock? Yeah, it's they slap another buck on that. You see DC does that a lot, where it's like, oh, get this $4.99 book, but the card stock's $5.99, and it's hard to want to try out something for that much money.
That's
especially something that's supposed to be slightly more disposable than a trade paperback or a hardcover or something like that. So yeah, it's very. What were you saying, Doc? I think you were.
Well, I was going to mention that I think the problem is Eric is kind of right. Mm-hmm. It's reached a point. I think it already reached the point of no return. Mm-hmm. With this, because they're now in a vicious cycle where the cover price is cost prohibitive for non-readers to start, but it to the point where it's almost cost prohibitive for current readers. So if it's already cost prohibitive for current readers, it's definitely cost prohibitive for non-readers. So you don't get anybody coming in really to replace the people that have been lost. For every 2 or 3 you lose, you might get one. And you end up, you can't fix it the way that it should be fixed. The way it should be fixed is you look at how essentially televisions have gone for the last 20 years. I remember, if you could remember back in like 2000, walking into like a Best Buy or Circuit City when that still existed, and looking at a 40-inch flat screen TV, that was $10,000. Now you could pick that up for $200 at any Walmart.
Yeah.
That's different because it's technology. Paying for like the R&D up front.
I understand that, but what it is it's also the adoption of the technology. As more people adopt it, it brings the average cost of certain components down, and comics gets the same thing. When you go to print a comic, when you're making a comic, the art is going to be about the same price no matter what your page rate is. Your page rate for editors, for writers, for artists, for colorists, for inkers, for letterers, that's all flat numbers. And when it goes to the actual printing process, it's like, the first 5,000 copies it's very expensive. But after that, it basically stays flat. And then you get to divide that out by a much, much larger units. And you bring your cost down, because you're able to sell. If you're selling 1 million copies, you could sell it for $1.50, $2. But if you're selling maybe $100,000, you're back at $4. The economies of scale don't exist, and the current price has prevented them from being able to seek economies of scale.
All right, so I do want to adjust this. Antonio Rochillo asks, how does Alterna put out comics for $1.99? There's a couple ways that they do it. Is one, they do print on newsprint, which is a bit cheaper. The second way is they don't pay like a page rate or anything. The deal that they have with the creators is the creators pay for their own project, and then Alterna agrees to distribute it, with a smaller portion, i.e., less risk, because the creators have taken on so much more risk on the front end. So that's how they're able to keep the cost down quite a bit.
Yeah.
On that would we also have Wolfstein 3D, who asked, the past 10 years, the average age of our biggest CX shop customers increased by 8 years. How should this model work in 10 to 20 years?
Yeah.
As the creators get, or the readers get older.
Customers
That's
get
another
older.
interesting thing here, Joe. I think in my mind, like digital comics, Comixology, Marvel Unlimited, DC Infinite Universe are supposed to be like the spinner rack, right? Where you go in there and you discover these titles, and maybe that gets you into the comic book shop. I think keeping them the exact same price for a digital comic as a physical comic, in some ways, is another inhibitor that keeps people from going in and maybe sampling a couple of comics before deciding on something that maybe they get in a trade or go get in physicals because they like them so much. What do you think about this stuff, Uel? Obviously, you're a retailer. You probably have some pretty passionate feelings about the cost.
Well, I mean, as far as the increase in age of customer, that was some of the things that people in the companies said when they were making changes to characters and creating new characters and stuff like that. Talking about how the old model of comic customer is aging out. We're going to probably age out with comics. At the same time, just to let y'all know, if that heart attack doesn't come, I'm sticking around.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're dragging me away.
But that average age is still only like 40, maybe
right.
50.
Well, I mean,
we got 30 years.
And you guys are right. The price of the books are too expensive for new people to get into. I don't think that if comics were cheaper, though, we would be selling more comics necessarily.
Sure.
Again, that lead in, maybe yes. Anytime they've done it with like special issues, the beginning, oh, hey, Mark Waid's coming on FF, and it's a 25-cent issue or something. Or, oh, hey, we're having an anniversary, 30 cents every issue. We've been around 30 years. That doesn't do it the second month. I'd be more impressed.
Yes. I think that's it. It's just, for me, again, limited vantage point. It's the culture that is an event now as opposed to the standard, right? So you're going to get that bump in issues, maybe not necessarily financially, but when you come to be known as an expensive hobby, right? In context, it's very hard to introduce people. It's very hard to introduce new people into the mix because you're asking them for such a huge investment, and huge is relative, but if you recommend 5 titles, you're already committed to, $5. It's like $25, $30, right? And it's like you're not even sure whether or not those are the books that they're going to really attach themselves to, right? Because to your point, once you become a comic fan, I remember my wife saying this, like she's looking through the comics that I had in the living room, and she looked at the price, and she's like, "You must really love this stuff," And I'm like, I think that really is the thing for people who are sticking around this long. It's really in their blood. They really love the experience of, having the book and reading it and all that kind of stuff. But trying to convince a new person that they should also love this, you have to incentivize it. And I'm not saying the end all be all is the cover price, but that's definitely part of the formula.
Kerry, how do you buy comics?
Right now, I've been buying them online.
Physical or digital?
Both.
Mm-hmm.
But it's mostly been now indies. I don't buy as many as the mainstream because of the pricing.
It's funny how like indies almost always were more expensive than mainstream comics, and now there's some of the cheaper comics out there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Spawn's $3, like the best deal out there outside of Alterna.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Callum Wiles
there's
says,
other ones. Heavy Metal's doing that too. They're like $2.99. Some of their books. They're trying, but again, it's not a guarantee that you're going to sell books if it's cheaper.
Right, you're right.
Wes and Doc, I hope you do more Seven Sins and mention authors like Anto Slot, Simone, Tom King, Aaron, Ayala, Suda, I don't know, can't pronounce that one, Wade, Quads, and others. So there is going to be another Seven Deadly Sins. It's not going to be with Doc. I'm going to do it with Josh, who should be here with us today, but he's not feeling very well. Definitely send your best wishes out to Josh. Hopefully he's doing better. But we're going to do a Seven Deadly Sins of DC Comics, and Doc and I, I'm sure we'll have some other fun lists out, and I'm glad you enjoyed that video. Everyone seems to have liked it. Thank you very much for the feedback. We'll definitely keep going those. So outside of the price, we talked the price here quick. You being a retailer, you see the marketing from the publishers. You're the middleman between the publisher and the customer. What do you think would be something that would need to be addressed like first, or is urgently in needing of addressing?
I think we need more. All right, I'm just talking mainstream right now. We need real diversity within the characters of the comic book, of their comic book companies. So I don't need to see a bunch of Batman books. That's not going to do it for me. I need to have some Firestorm. Even if Firestorm isn't selling, you got to have that stuff out there. You have to have team-up books. You got to have some bi-monthly comic books. You do it anyway accidentally, so you might as well do it on purpose. If your comic isn't selling that well, but it's got a backup with Spider-Man in it, so it sells a little bit, just bring it out every once in a while. I think those are some of the things that I would like to see the mainstream companies.
Let me ask you, what's the value of that? Why do you think that's like that would sort of, forget the term, like move the needle in as far as like how to fix it?
Well, the reason is it gives a person something else to look for on a week when their normal book doesn't come out. If you're coming in weekly and you're Marvel and you want only people to buy your Marvel comics, you shouldn't do something that makes it look like week to week you're just buying the same damn thing. Because that's stupid, I think.
In December, we're getting 5 issues of Amazing Spider-Man in those 5 weeks.
I mean, comic books. Look, is television better now that you don't watch commercials? I don't think so.
Not really.
In fact, you know what? I used to be able to. I didn't have to. I mean, obviously, you can pause things these days, but that's when you go to the bathroom. That's when you find out about something you might want to buy. These are all things that America's based on, and we're doing things to prevent that from happening. And I gotta just pump out all these Batman books, but you got all these other characters that you're gonna do something with them eventually, so you don't lose the IP. So you might as well do something with them. Rehabilitate them, showcase them. There's a lot of ways a comic company. I just think having something else to look at on the shelf would be a very good thing. And Marvel and DC aren't being very. Marvel's a little bit better sometimes, but it's just not really diverse. Like I said, it's just not a whole bunch of different things right now.
Absolutely, especially with DC, with Batman, it's become a bit overwhelming. You're talking over like half the line.
Do it like, can we get another Batman book out? It's like they're daring themselves to do it. Hey, Eric, when you're done with Arc Athena and you go to DC, what do you think you're going to be doing?
Oh, definitely Firestorm. Now that you said it, and it's going to be the big billowy sleeves version of Firestorm too. So
I love it. Yeah, that's my favorite style.
And everybody's waiting for Joe to do City of Bruce.
Oh yeah,
that for a year now.
Joe, I'm going to send you my samples to. I'm not expecting to get locked in as artist, but please look through my portfolio for City of Bruce, please.
Yeah,
of course.
Or you can just buy drop and
there you go.
No,
but
I think Eric could just like start sending pages to Joe, and Joe would be like, "Well, I guess I have an artist." You can just force your way in.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, all of that is a problem, and kind of building on, Uel was saying, it's you don't have ads in the comics, you don't have ads on TV anymore. But part of the problem here is we're looking at it really focused in a comics way, but like all media is suffering.
Yeah.
Like, movies, TV, music, ask how many musicians are making a ton of money off Spotify. You know, people ask these directors and actors how much money they're making doing a Netflix movie now compared to when they were doing, you know, big Hollywood blockbuster. Like, it's entertainment's in a really weird spot right now, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. I think it will get better eventually, but it's going to keep getting worse for a bit before they figure it out.
At the same time, Joe, we're now seeing Eric. I mean, what company was asking for Arc Athena at the time, you know, when you were doing it? Now he's doing it on his own. And just like on YouTube, people are creating content. Anybody can get on Spotify for a while. Someone's
I'm on
podcast
Spotify.
is out there. Exactly. I mean, it's so much is out there that I don't know if we can ever regain everything ever again, you know, the way it used to be, at least.
To Joe's point, in regards to the other entertainment venues, I agree with him that there's, you know, the suffering term makes me smile a bit. However, like some of those industries, and I think the zoomed out picture is how many of them are sustainable, right? And that I always ask, are comics, you know, the business of it ultimately sustainable, or are they just month in, month out kind of losing, if not their entire shirt, just part of their shirt every time that they publish? The entertainment industry, it's not making as much money as it used to, especially like feature film or animation, but they're still finding ways to make money. Is comics doing that without, you know, resorting to predatory practices like, you know, cover price hikes and, you know, multiple alternate covers in order to get that initial bump so it sustains the series before you cancel it and relaunch it again with, you know what I mean? So those are the kinds of things I'm like, yeah, I understand that it's across the board a little bit tough entertainment wise, but at least a few of them are maintaining a sustainability model.
Well, I think when it comes to that, like, I mean, to Joe's point about the entertainment industry across the board as you know, suffering. Now music's one that, you know, that one actually, you know what, all of them have one simple symptom. They're going for flash over consistency.
Yes.
They all want to basically be Barry Bonds, and nobody wants to be, you know, I don't know, other baseball player that hits a lot of like line drive, like base hits. Pick one, you're the baseball guy.
Tony Gwynn.
Okay, Tony Gwynn. So everybody, you know, everybody's trying across all of media. Like, you don't see the, you know, movies and TV shows that would be middling shows but would last for a couple of years. They need to be a hit or they're canceled out the gate. Movies, they're going for tentpole only. That's it. You get like one or two. Most of these studios, if it's not a tentpole, you just plain don't see even a single trailer for it. It just
so we gotta get to these super chats, Doc. But we do have Dark Admiral March here. Oversaturation is a problem for me personally. I don't want or need 20 versions of one particular character or 5 to 10 titles of said character. That is absolutely correct, Gary. It's like if you go and read Batman right now, and I'm having to do that because I'm doing This Week in Batman, like there's 5 or 6 different versions of the character right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I was going to say the thing I really can't stand with comics right now is swapping out all your major characters for somebody else. I go back to like when Marvel started to do it, and that was the time when they really should have focused on the characters they had, because the MCU was at their height and they could have brought in new readers by saying, look, here's Steve Rogers' Captain America comic books. I remember being in the comic book store and kids are like, oh, that's not Steve. And then their fathers were taking them over to get back issues because they wanted to see the characters they got introduced to in the movies.
Yeah. Absolutely. We also have Kenneth Dowling. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. A way to fix the quality of comics today is the companies to trust their writers and artists and not interfere with them. Hire creators that want to tell great stories and not spread political issues. What are your thoughts on interference, Joe? Obviously, you're within the comic industry. You're an editor. Are you always interfering when you're editorial, or do you hear about, you know, maybe the big two, a lot of interference from the leadership and editorial staff?
Oh yeah, I mean. Working mostly on like creator-owned stuff and things like that as an editor, the role's a bit different. You're basically trying to get the person or the team you're working with to tell the best story they're trying to tell. It's not about telling your story. Whereas at the big two, oftentimes, and this has fluctuated over the years, but the editors will have ideas and they'll, sort of like cast the story with the people they want to tell their story, unless, it's a big writer who's really blowing up, because we're at a point where it's really more writer driven, where, it's like, oh, Donnie, oh, Tom King, whatever, you're doing great. We'll tell your story and we'll step out of the way, or, we'll let you for a little bit until we come up with something like, oh, you got to kill Alfred or something like that. But that's been a major problem. And it's tough for a lot of these creatives. And I do feel bad in some instances, because a lot of times, especially younger creators or creators that don't have the clout, you're cast to tell a story for a certain book, and you got to do what your editor tells you. Like, this is the story you're writing. And then they go out there, do it. And then fans come out and say, well, that sucked. What are you doing? And the creative team's in a weird position, because they can't throw the editor under the bus, or else they're not getting work again. So they kind of have to go out there and suck it up and be like, oh, I'm sorry, you don't like it, and meanwhile, everyone ignores the fact that it's the higher ups who are like, oh, no, you got to do this. You got to change this about the character. You got to change, we're changing the costume. Here's the design we came up with. We're deprioritizing villains. You better make sure that they like one punch this guy in the first 3 pages. And then you better make sure Mr. Fantastic shows up and goes, oh my God, you're the greatest superhero of all time. Like, those things tend to be editorially dictated. And then a lot of times the writers and artists in those situations get the brunt of it. So seeing some of that change would be great.
Absolutely. We also got Callum Lyle here. Is there something wrong with Jim Lee? Does he know anything that's going on? Or is Daniel Cherry drugging his food with memory loss pills, or does he not care? I will send this one over to Eric. Obviously, you worked under Jim Lee. You worked at Wildstorm. Obviously, he knows the industry. He's in an executive position for a reason. Do you think he doesn't care anymore, or do you think he's got other responsibilities?
No, I mean, I haven't spoken or hung out with him lately, but I would never think that he was completely so out of the mix that he doesn't know what he's doing. I suspect that, and I think you guys can all agree to this, how Jim ran a company back then and how Jim can run a company now are two very different creatures, right? He was with Wildstorm, it was smaller, he could be a little bit more nimble, but with DC, that's a huge moving cargo freighter that can't really course correct as quickly as people would want him to. So I can't convince myself to believe that Jim's completely being drugged in his food by Daniel Cherry. But it is to say that the decision making is not always all on his table,
And Jim has, a parent company with shareholders to
exactly
to answer to now, where he
nonetheless, we might want to drug test him anyway.
Can't hurt, cannot hurt.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I don't know how much Jim Lee is really involved in the day-to-day operations. I think at this point,
he's in meetings.
AT&T is keeping him, and I think they've talked about this a bit before, that he's kind of more of an in-between between like DC and the greater AT&T, and figuring out, oh, what can we mine? Where can we go with this property and that property? And he's a name that they want to display. They want to be like, oh, see, comics. We know comics, Jim Lee.
Yeah.
Jim Lee kind of makes me feel like a person has 1 foot in, 1 foot out just a bit. Not that he's leaving necessarily, just that he's got something else in mind for later on. At least that's what DC feels like anyway. Really.
Maybe we'll get really, 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 really lucky, and he's saving all of his pennies, and he'll buy Wildstorm back and leave.
They can sell that. We got Everett Todd here. Says comics needs outside blood and editorial management.
Don't they have that already? Haven't they?
I
kind of
disagree.
started
That's kind of what they've got now, right?
They have nothing
Maybe
but
not
outside
editorial.
blood. They have nothing but
I think they need
outside blood.
writers in editorial,
I
people
think
that
they
have
need to
actually
pay
written
people
comic
is really
books.
what they need to do.
Yeah, this
all
is
companies
probably what
need
it
to
is.
pay people.
Yeah, no,
You know, maybe people won't be, you know, asking for money, online. Maybe they'll stick around longer. Maybe you can put them on something for more than 3 issues, 6 issues.
But you're still gonna have the problem of people wanting to use it as nothing but a springboard to Hollywood.
No. Yeah, but the thing is that you pay them so they can't do that. You know how you have that job that sucks?
Yeah,
DC
Other
Comics
job,
becomes the
but
destination.
you have
yes.
to work it up.
There is,
you know, and
I'm sorry, there's just not enough money in comics to pay them. That Hollywood will have more money.
the problem is, this is what I really think should happen. Again, it's talking mainstream. Marvel and DC should, or their parent companies, so Disney and Warner Brothers, should be looking at comics as advertisement. It's cheaper advertisement than the advertisement that they use anyway. They could give these things to comic stores, and comic stores can make money off of them. And you know what? Everybody would be happy in the end, because you know there'd be a million Batmans out there, but there could be a million Firestorms also.
Yeah.
We got Dark Admiral Mark Chair chiming in. I can't look at a Spidey book and not think, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? Same with Wolverine, Iron Man, Cap, and now Ghost Rider. I like the Eminem reference, and that's definitely a problem, Doc. We talk about that a lot. You know, they've essentially completely changed who Wolverine is as a character. Iron Man is not who Iron Man was even 5-10 years ago. These characters, they would call it evolved, but they've really devolved into lesser versions of what they used to be.
Well, they've become much more one-dimensional and one-note joke characters. They've become the Twitter description of themselves. But additionally, I think the problem is, in addition to just that, the other side of looking at his comment here is that all of their uniqueness has been removed because there's nothing but an endless supply of photocopies, poor photocopies of all of them. I mean, how many different Wolverines, captains, Ghost Riders, Spider People, Iron People are there these days? There's at least a half dozen of every one of those characters. So all of their uniqueness is gone. So you've basically done nothing but brand dilution on to yourself by trying to make, we're going to make a Wolverine for these people.
For
a Wolverine a Wolverine for every different, whatever group you want to, target demographic. And then you're sitting there going like, okay, but now you've just ruined what Wolverine is. Nobody wants this other Wolverine. We like Wolverine. And you
cause a lot of friction because now, there's a small group that wants just this version of Wolverine rather than the main Wolverine. And
but Wes, can I ask about that? The exercise of introducing something that's a lot more palatable to a potential new set of readers, right? I think that's what's motivating the change, or at least allowing them to let's grow them to what they haven't been for a while because we want them to be accessible. But if the truth still is that there isn't that much of an infusion of a new audience, then aren't you accidentally, I don't mean you, but I mean like the mainstream comic book industry, but like aren't they accidentally alienating a bunch of people who have already grown accustomed to what they've known? Like if ultimately there's no numbers to proof out that there is no infusion of new readers because of these changes that you've made, all you've done is kind of piss people off that are really super loyal to these characters, right? Or what am I missing in that formula?
No. You're spot on. The problem is they realize there's two problems here. One, if they change their course correct, if they course correct and go backwards, it's an admission they were wrong, and they don't like doing that. They don't like it making that admission. And two, it's the belief that they weren't wrong. They just haven't been allowed to do enough of whatever change they want to make yet. So they need to go all the way. Like, oh, well, no, our change isn't bad. We just haven't been allowed to do enough of it yet. And that's what it comes down to. I mean,
what were you going to say?
It's easy
there, Joe. I know you wanted to chime in.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, absolutely with all of this, but I mean, Spider-Man's been broken for a very, very long time, probably since the mid '90s. Like, I don't think I don't think he's ever fully come back from the clones. Even some of the runs and issues that have been good since then, it's still got that, taint on it. And, like Captain America, I love Captain America. And he used to be this character with a lot of depth and a deep rogues gallery who's deteriorated into, he's got to fight the Red Skull again. And he's got to deal with, contemporary issues that we face every day, like fascism taking over immediately, just weird stuff. And so many of the characters haven't gone where they're supposed to go. Like when Mark Grunwald introduced Crossbones, the whole point of that character was he was working as a lackey for the Red Skull, but his whole plan was he was going to eventually take over and, run things, inherit that from Red Skull, and then kind of be like the arch nemesis of Cap. And now, what are we, like 35, a little over 30 years, I think, since the introduction of the character, 31, 32 years. And what is he doing? He's a lackey for the Kingpin in the next event. After 30-something years of a character whose whole point was he was supposed to take over and be around. Like, they had all this great setup for things, and then they forget, and then everything goes back down, and it's just a mess. And it's upsetting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I do want to say thank you very much to Epidoxa for the $20 super chat. Very generous. Thank you for supporting the channel. He says, I watch this show every week after work and never get to send a thank you. Everyone hit that thumbs up. Absolutely. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And right now, I think we've got 45 thumbs up on the video. If you're watching, we're up to about 160 live viewers. So if you haven't given us a thumbs up, go there and give us a thumbs up. That's free. We definitely appreciate it. And it lets other people know that we're having a great conversation here. I definitely appreciate everyone supporting the channel. Give us a thumbs down if you have to. We've got a couple of those already. But I think they're just not watching the video because this thing has been great.
Sorry, Wes. I apologize.
Hey, it's you and Fatal J. Fatal J is always.
Oh, Fatal J. I kind of thought he would be here, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Oh my goodness, Fatal J. He's probably out having a good time this weekend. So once again, thank you very much to Epidoxa for being very generous and supporting the channel. We've also got Kenneth Dowling with the $20 super chat. Thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. He says, on the last Comics Aficionados last weekend, Doc brought up ABC list characters. Some characters can't carry more than one book, but A-list characters can carry 2 or more. Spider-Man has 5 books at one point. Absolutely.
Holy cow.
Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Web Spider-Man, Superior Spider-Man, and my goodness, what's PPS?
Peter Parker.
Spectacular Spider-Man.
Spectacular Spider-Man.
I thought that was just a troll to make you say pee-pee, Wes.
No,
You got me to say pee-pee.
no. There's legitimately only about 6 actual A-list characters in all of comics. It's Archie, Richie Rich, I'm not joking. Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman. That is it. They're only ones that can, for a long period of time, carry multiple solo titles at the same time. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's what the market says. So that makes them the only A-listers. I mean, that you could be. I feel no bad about
is the triple A-lister because he can carry 15 titles.
Well, he can carry about 5 solo titles and then a bunch of miniseries. But Spider-Man can carry all those miniseries too. Superman he carried 4 throughout the 80s and 90s with Man of Steel, Superman, Action Comics, and Adventures of Superman. Yeah, Adventures of Superman.
I just don't know how 5 Spider-Man books are sustainable.
They were selling one every week.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. There's substituting
Different creative
week.
teams, yeah.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay, so in a traditional monthly model, they want to have a Spider-Man book on the shelves no matter what.
Yeah. So 1 week it'll
Now
be
they want
ASM.
15 Spider-Man comics on the shelf no matter what.
Yeah, it'd be 1 week it was ASM. The next week it was like the McFarlane Spider-Man, adjectiveless.
Right.
The following week it was Web of Spider-Man. The following week after that it was Spectacular Spider-Man. Every month. And then they added in a fifth one at one point. That one didn't really go for very long though. I think
In
it was
theory,
Friendly
that
Neighborhood.
Yeah.
In
Friendly
theory,
neighborhood,
that
yeah.
makes sense, but in practice, is it making sense? Are people like, oh, cool, I get to have a Spider-Man book every week that comics come out? Or do they just wait for the adjectiveless version? Do they just wait for one of these 5?
Some
Well,
of
you
them
figure
do.
there's
some of them
collectors
buy
out
all
there
of them.
that's got to have everything, and then you got people that probably
Yeah.
fall in love with one creative team or one
Gotcha.
version of the character.
Oh yeah, and then Marvel Team Up was also still coming out at that time, and that was essentially a Spider-Man book.
Spider-Man team up.
Yeah, this actually, I finally got this week. Just came out the 5th
Oh.
omnibus for
Ooh,
Amazing
that's awesome.
Spider-Man,
Oh wow.
and with the
Beautiful.
Gil Kane cover. I had to get the DM variant. I hate these stupid covers they do, where they're just like, let's get a modern artist to just draw Spider-Man looking away from a building or something like that as a cover for It's like, just use one of the covers. What the hell are you doing?
Well, thank you
I
very
bought-
much. Like I said,
I bought
once
the-
again to finish it up, Doc.
Sorry. I bought the second Wolverine omnibus the other day. I got the Jim Lee cover.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Very nice. Once again, thank you very much to Epidoxa and Kenneth Dalley for supporting the channel. It's very generous of you. We'll start winding down this conversation on how to fix mainstream comics. We're not going to get as many points of view as I thought, just because the conversation's been so lively. But I'll let Joe have the last word on here, at least the last fix that he would do. We've had, obviously, Eric has talked about the prices. We had Uel Carter kind of talking about the oversaturation of certain characters at the expense of other characters. Joe, is there something that you would identify as this needs to be addressed that would really help mainstream comics today?
This is nothing that hasn't been brought up in the past, but there needs to be a combination of figuring out a better balance between editorial and creative teams, and on top of that, committing to a run. Not for every title. Every title, you don't just go like, oh, hey, you're untested. Let me sign you up here for 50 issues. Go nuts. But, when you've got someone on a bigger title, be willing to do that commitment, and not just with the writer, the artist.
Yeah.
People like a consistent art team.
That 36 issues of Chip Zdarsky with Marco Giachetto, it probably didn't sell like it probably should have, but it's going to sell better in the future, because when you get all 6 volumes of it or whatever they end up selling it as, it's going to feel consistent, even though there's a couple fill-in artists there. But it helps the longevity and the evergreenness of the run in the long run, in my opinion, Joe.
No, absolutely. And you see so many runs, so many other things. It's like you want that artist to be on there for a couple years or so. You want to get that consistency and also to have a regular sort of fill-in artist, that it's not just haphazard when a fill-in artist comes in to let the main artist catch up. You got to go back to some of that kind of stuff, because you always see that. It always hurts these books. Like, as much as I love Peter David's run on X Factor investigations through the mid 2000s for about a decade, the art changes constantly throughout the run, and that hurt the book overall. Like, those sort of things, it's like you got to get a consistent team and try to work through as best you can and have a better balance between editorial and creative.
So Callum Lyle asks, I think people like Vita Ayala would be better off writing porn. Does porn even have writers, Doc?
Yes, it does, actually.
Okay.
But there are so many jokes about the kind of porn that Vito would write, and all of them would get you demonetized.
Yeah,
so I'm going to not make them.
I just asked you the one simple question. Apparently, they do have porn writers. Perhaps a future endeavor.
Oftentimes, it's the director or the producer. Just to let you know.
I prefer my porn more like Curb Your Enthusiasm. Just get a concept and just let them run.
For the moment.
All right. Here's the deal. I want to get this off my chest. Okay, they do porn parodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they just go the next step and commission or buy the rights to an Eros book? You know, I've always wanted to see Housewives at Play it out. You know, something like that.
Well, mostly because
oh my goodness, this is a real conversation.
Because Axel Braun really likes superheroes.
I'll have you know that if it wasn't for Eros, we wouldn't have near the Dan Clowes we have.
All right. Thank you for spurring on an interesting side conversation there, Cal Blau. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Doc's the go-to if you need any insight on the porn industry.
Chuck Dawson's looking for a check.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
he's got his porno comics out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's some great porn parodies out there. Flash Gordon. There's a great line. You don't know what it was like when the sex ray went off and no one was around. So
I'm using that somewhere, Joe. I might use it completely out of context, but I'm using that line.
I heard that. It's not like
that would be a Joe Casey kind of thing.
The costuming in the Captain Marvel porn parody was actually better than the Marvel costuming. I'm not joking.
I've heard that.
All right, let's get back on topic here. Neostar Productions says a quick fix to all these derivative characters: just make an Avengers Arena-style event to reduce the numbers, starting with a war between Spider-Man variants and Wolverine variants. Yeah. The Ludizer gets jettisoned into the sun, right, Doc?
I just say, why bother? Just throw them into a rocket and shoot them into the sun already. We're going to come out with the answer that we want to begin with, which is just Peter Parker, just Logan, just Bruce Banner.
What about Peter Parker? I like the pig variant of
they just throw him into another dimension, back to his own universe. Yeah,
his pig dimension.
Yeah, he comes from a whole different universe. Now I will accept him and the fucking fruit, the fruit things from Hostess, the cupcake Spider-Man, the one
pies.
The fruit pies. That's it, fruit pie.
Yeah,
I will accept those two as the only two other Spider-Men. Period.
What about Ben Reilly as Scarlet Spider? He's kind of the similar, right?
Nope, he goes into the sun.
Got to get rid of him too. But absolutely, some arena style combat to a little culling of the herd as far as variants would be good. Obviously, it is interesting that in the Marvel Comics universe, alternate versions of characters are now called variants in line with the Loki show from Disney Plus that happened this week. So, kind of jumping on to Joe's point there, Eric, obviously you came up and you were in the bullpen at Wildstorm and learning things. Was it considered important to have a long run as an artist when you got onto a title? Like, was that good for your development? Was it good for the title? Was that something that you strove for as an artist?
Yeah, I don't think there was a company initiative to say, like, we're planning on keeping you around for X amount of issues. I think to each creator and at least to each artist, that was the dream, to be on because that's the pattern that had been established when we were growing up, being fans of books. Man, I wish I'd be on here for like a dozen issues. I'd be on here for 24 issues, So that was still sort of the normal thing to do as a creator. But these days, that's been kind of thrown out the window, right? So again, it's just the culture that you build around your product. If it makes a lot of sense, if what you hold as value to have a level of continuity, then that's the thing that everybody's going to strive for. But the moment you start doing short term 4 issues and then we got to get rid of you. And I think you and I talked about this offline, Wes, like how much those image guys really hurt Marvel and DC's feelings where they're not willing to commit to artists long term anymore. Right. But if culturally that's not your thing, then it's never going to stick.
Oh, he also got terrified of it.
Well, we got Cliff Elor with the 1999 Super Chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. He hasn't been able to catch the show for a while. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training, and he's got some break today. Well, congratulations on your training. Hopefully you are staying in shape and are a weapon of destruction, sir. Good to see you still on the grind, Wes. Wanted to ask Joe, will you be at New York City Comic Con in any capacity? I need to sign. You need to sign a copy of Bexar because it's so
Nice.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm planning on it. Unless they somehow don't do the show, I'm planning on being there at least. I might skip Sunday, but I should be there.
Are you going to have a booth, or are you just going to be out?
I'm going to be out and about, but I'm sure I could connect with people somehow. I know my buddy Pat Shan's got a table. I could probably.
That dude's hilarious on Twitter, by the way. That guy's great.
Oh my god, I love Pat so much. I've known him for a long time now, and he's so good.
So Joe is planning on being there. If you need to, if you're not able to connect with Joe on social media, which should be pretty easy, he's got Twitter. You can email me if you have to, and I will be a go-between, so you can get your Bexar signed by Joe.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Congratulations on that, by the way, Joe.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Have we got confirmed? Is there more Bexar coming, Joe?
I can't confirm anything yet. I am working on. I'm working on like 3 unannounced books at the moment. So
wow,
we'll see.
Somebody's in demand.
I will confirm Bexar more of it. I have no inside knowledge at all. Hey, he just asked for somebody to confirm it. I'm just doing it.
Doc has confirmed something he has no insight or information on. And thank you very much to Cliff Elor for supporting the channel. Congratulations on your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I would go catch that myself and get this on the rebound. So got to stay in shape. Everyone's having a good time with that. We got Lade Kramer in the house. So speaking of changes to the comic industry, in January, it looks like we got all new #1s and mass cancels relaunch for X-Men. Can Marvel break this cycle? Doc, you are the Marvel aficionado. Can Marvel break the cycle of reboots and #1 relaunches?
Not as long as Tom Brevoort and David Gabriel have any position in power over the editorial and sales portion. I'm sorry. This is what we're going to get, and the frequency between the cycle will speed up and speed up and speed up until the inevitable result is every issue is a #1. I'm sorry. That's as long as those guys, or until they're fired.
Their model is essentially built on #1 relaunches and variant covers. So
that's
we're stuck with that one for the foreseeable future. We also got Lade Kramer on this one. Am I missing an inside joke here, Joe? He says we need a Dexter, the Red Lantern Cat miniseries from Joe.
I think that's Dexter.
I'd do that.
Is it Dexter?
The simplest answer. Yeah, no, I'll do that. Absolutely.
That's a writer, all right.
Is that a serial killer cat that's a Red Lantern?
Yeah.
That'd
you don't
be
know?
fun.
You don't know about Dexter?
Nah.
I thought this was a comics channel.
It is a So I want to throw it down to you. Obviously, you are a comic book retailer. Joe did mention the thing that he thinks is really holding some things back is a lack of faith in creative teams, not specifically artists not really having long runs. As a retailer, do you see that a long sustained run with a creative team keeps the numbers up or able to sustain numbers over time better than a series that is continuously, basically churning through artists?
I would suggest, I think the longevity helps. As a series is, so I'm assuming more often than not these days, what we're going to get in comic books is a new creative team comes on a book, and then that's going to be like a volume. And then when another creative team comes on a book, it's going to be a new volume. I have accepted this. We're going to get new #1s all the time. It's fine because I like novels, and this happens in novels all the time. But what you don't get is a novelist just, skipping out halfway through, unless it just sucks, But you get artists doing that, and you even have writers coming in and helping, and it really dilutes what you're reading. And I think you see that, like, Daredevil, not a great seller. We're going to go back to Daredevil. But what it is I sell the same number all the time. Whereas
the attrition's
other books,
less.
Yeah. Whereas other books, it might dip, it might grow. It might dip, it might grow. It might not sell at all. But Daredevil's going to keep doing it as long as Chichetto's involved with Zdarsky. I know it's been a lot less, but at least the fill-in artist has been, what, Mike Hawthorne? Is that who it is?
Yeah, before he ended his Marvel exclusive.
Yeah, so I mean, he's good, and at least you can't get someone the whole time, so at least it's the other person the rest of the time. That makes it. I mean, this is what I've accepted now. But if it's going to be like Avengers, where every arc it's a new person, and every third arc it's McGinnis coming back and stuff like that, it's very. I know they try and get artists that replicate him as best they can, but it just doesn't work out, and it really, among other things with Avengers. That's another thing that makes it not so great.
Absolutely. So, Kerry, I'll let you have the last word on how to fix the comic book industry. We talked about 3 kind of big overarching issues, but we'll let you wind this one down.
I think mostly they need to stop listening to Twitter. I feel like they're always on. They're trying to cater to people who are not going to buy, in my personal opinion.
You need to identify your audience and shoot for that.
Yeah, they want the manga crowd, but then they forget what manga does, and manga is very diverse. It's not always just superheroes.
Yeah, you get the volleyball manga, you can get a cooking manga.
You can get a manga for anybody.
They definitely take a lot more chances.
The one thing as a retailer, when that's why the mainstream is so important to a comic book store. Maybe only I care about this. But, if someone's into Spider-Man, you want to be able to show them something else. If someone's into a creator, it allows you to show them all of the things that creator has done. But when they've done a Spider-Man, then I've really can hook them. Because you might buy a different Spider-Man from somebody else as opposed to this You can't get that many Joe Corallo books right now. I'm screwed if that's the only thing they come in wanting.
You got to send them to Comixology for those exclusives.
Oh, great. Thanks. I don't remember Comixology giving me dick. That's
also, keep in mind, Backstar's been confirmed, so we're good to go on that, right? Like Backstar.
Yeah.
That's money in the bank.
We got Lade Kramer coming in supporting the channel. Thank you so much. Another thing, can comic companies introduce a new character, say Yara Flor? Stick with developing some good stories for the character, keep a creative team, and then place them in other media. That seems to be a problem, Joe. We're already on we got a new artist on there. It feels like Yara Flor is absolutely taking a backseat to everything else that's going with DC Comics. Just 9 months ago, she felt like the breakout character from Future State, and now she's an afterthought.
Well, the pilot didn't get picked up, so they don't care.
Now the Yara gang is just flapping in the wind.
Yeah.
Joelle Jones is one of those people. Pay her the money so she doesn't do anything else.
It's a beautifully illustrated comic, I'll tell you that.
Oh my God. Sure. How can you not have her on that book all the time?
But, she's not on an exclusive. They didn't even have Tynan on an exclusive.
They gotta beg her. You can do anything else and this, and we'll pay you a lot of money because that's a good creator.
Yeah, and it's crazy though. But it's also one of those things too, where speaking of derivative characters, it's like Wonder Girl. You could have asked which one before Yara Flor. Yeah.
You got Cassius Kidsmark and Donna Troy.
Yeah. So.
Those are all failed. What are you talking about?
I think what it comes down to, especially in modern comics, is they have no fucking patience. If it's not an absolute success right out the gate, they just give up. And they are unwilling to put in the hard work. They want to sell it on a PR, like a press release, and then immediately translate it into sales. And when that doesn't happen, they get confused and they give up and they get frustrated.
Rob Liefeld ruined the comic industry because he'd launch a character and it'd sell 1 million issues in #1. He'd be like, "Oh, I love that," or whatever character he's created.
Yeah, but he would Yeah, he would kind of, but he also kind of backdoor piloted a lot of those characters in his other things. And they didn't make a big deal before, like a month or two in the press before they came out. He just dumped them into the book. And then when they got popular, he'd be like, yep, that was the plan. Yeah. Instead, they're trying to sell it. Look, they're trying to make people like Yara Flor popular to Entertainment Weekly readers, not to DC Comics readers.
Exactly.
And that doesn't translate into DC Comics reader sale. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's bad marketing.
So that is good. I guess we'll wind that one down. We talked about some issues, but we're having a great discussion. And thank you to everybody for supporting the channel, for giving your input on what you think, what we could change and go and do better as far as mainstream comics. But there is a publisher out there, traditionally within the last 5 years, been the fourth largest publisher in all of comics. They're going through some bad times. We were wondering, what's the stability of IDW? Are they even going to make it? Well, the sheets have gotten better. They just had a big mark off because of the PPP loans that were forgiven. They made a little bit of a profit, at least as far as publishing, for a couple of quarters in a row. And now, hopefully this is good news for you, Uel Carter, as a retailer. They have an exclusive agreement with Penguin Random House. Was this unexpected? I wouldn't have expected IDW to get this deal, but I knew somebody was going to follow Marvel over there.
I was waiting. I mean, I don't know if I kind of joked on Twitter that this was not the other shoe dropping, but it's getting that other shoe moving, I think. It's got to be Boom would be the one, I think. IDW is kind of like, you know, I didn't realize that they made as much money on that George Takei book and the other one,
March from John Lewis.
March. But the thing is I think that was like, is it IDW Oni or something like that? I can't remember anymore, but I remember those, and of course I'm kind of moving the goalposts when I say this. I'm like, yeah, but it was another company that originally started doing the March books, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it was IDW.
I think it was Top Shelf, and
that's what it is.
As Top Shelf was doing it, IDW bought them out.
That's right. So Top Shelf is like the company that gets good books, and then there's IDW. You know what I mean?
I remember I used to do, because what was it? Top Shelf every year used to have like a blowout sale, and I used to order a bunch of books on those blowout sales, but that stopped once IDW took them over.
Right. It's like, I mean, I know it's like splitting hairs because companies buy other companies, and this is how you get along. But when Archaea got bought by Boom, all their sales hinged on Mouse Guard these days, and it doesn't. But if it did, I would still be saying, yeah, but that's the Archaea stuff. We're not talking about Boom. They haven't ever shown that they could do anything other than buy another company or be involved with another company. You know, if that's success, then way to go. But IDW, I mean, they do have the Turtles book. You know, but
they just lost the Marvel license.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
But they just lost that Marvel license.
Well, that's the thing.
They sure did.
You know, they're so heavily reliant on license. Yeah.
They lost it, and they'll probably. I imagine they'll, like, Star Wars is also going to, you know, and that they have editors who.
What's Heather going to do? What's Heather going to do now? Is she going to go back to her other dream job of internet gambling, betting stuff?
You guys.
But yeah, that's it's pretty crazy. It's weird. That's such it. Yesterday was so weird with IDW news. It's like, oh, they're going over to Penguin. Oh, they lost it. It's like, wow, that's what a roller coaster,
teeth, man. So lock and key is what you're telling me.
I do have a question for Joe though. Okay, so those books that like actually made some decent money, they were Top Shelf books that that IDW had bought.
Yeah.
So obviously, now when they bought that, like I don't know the details of that acquisition. Did they bring over a lot of the editorial and the business side people into IDW, or What?
I know they brought over Chris Strauss or Strauss. I'm blanking on how you say his last name. I know they brought him over, who was like, the editor-in-chief of of Top Shelf. I don't think they had too many other people come over.
Okay, because I guess
know he did. Yeah.
My question then becomes, all right, so basically IDW got saved by the acquisition of a company that actually did greenlight good product. So did they bring in? Well, no, but that's really what it is.
Off, let's say that the investment paid off.
Yeah, I understand, but So my question is, did they keep the person that that greenlit that product that now is currently saving IDW's financials? Because outside of that, they're not still all that great.
So he's there. I'm sure that's why they got the George Takei book, was because he was there. Because otherwise it probably would have went to Abrams, which is doing a bunch of other. Abrams is like Top Shelf was a few years ago. Basically, they put out art books and some other fancy books, educational books, things like that are going to run up the numbers in libraries, schools, things like that.
Okay, because I mean, my curiosity was, what else do they still have in the pipeline then that might be good, or once they burn through all the stuff that Top Shelf had already kind of started the ball rolling on?
Yeah.
Are they going to go back to old IDW? That was where I was going.
It's probably going to, because Run, which is the sequel series to March, went to Abrams. So I think some things are starting to fall in the cracks there.
I know Wes had to step aside. Can we get to this super chat from Nightmare X123? I think the best way to fix the mainstream comics is to dethrone the big two and prop up or unite the indies as a new mainstream that would fix both the issue of genre diversity and solid storytelling. You had something to say about that, as far as you kind of need the mainstream in order to sell indie. Now that paradigm shift, that would that fix anything? Would that really be super helpful long term?
Indies is such a loaded word these days.
Sure.
Everything that's an indie is got a parent company that's supporting it. It feels like true to independents aren't quite what I always feel they are. As far as you have to not be Marvel and DC, you have to offer somebody something to work for you. You got to pay them money, and they don't. Marvel and DC ain't paying anybody. So the Action Lab definitely isn't, right? And then I've never heard good stories about Boom, so I've never heard good stories about IDW paying. I've never heard, you can tell me differently, guys. You tell me how these companies pay. But
what do you think, Kerry?
Huh? I'm sorry.
What do you think about that fixing the mainstream by fixing comics by dethroning the mainstream?
Yeah, you buy independence.
Well, the problem though, like Uel was saying with independence, is you got, for example, you've also got the campaigns, and most of them are independently run. You would have to get something together where we would be able to compete with the mainstream.
Sure.
To create competition.
Distribution.
Yeah. And you have to, so they have to offer ownership over this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So a company that offers ownership to your creation can only get so far as a company, and you can't dethrone Marvel and DC that way also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
No. I think what it was is, if you look back at history, there was one significant opportunity to do that, and that was Image.
Yes.
And then
Early
Jim Lee
Image.
sold Wildstorm.
Well, no. This is well before this. Well before Jim sold it, in 1994, 95. Their problem was they couldn't hit their deadlines. And
Run a business.
Yeah, they didn't run the business side. And they squandered that opportunity. So you would need another situation where people were pulling resources into one banner,
right,
that were enough of a sales draw with original product that is going to be ongoing and not infrequent, that hits its monthly, release schedule for a number of years. And Image could have, really dethroned. And you know what? Had they not basically collapsed, imploded, because they're it was all unforced errors on their own part. Then maybe Jim doesn't sell Wildstorm because he doesn't need to. He never needed to. But I mean, he what I mean is he could have, it would have been financially fine for him to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to hire a business manager to run this whole thing.
Nah, dude was shrewd on that one. Part
of that, good. But part of that was because, there were a lot of lean years there. But if they would have kept growing at their initial rate, yeah, maybe he does. And maybe it becomes one, maybe Image doesn't break up into the studio, like completely into the chaos that it became. Maybe it maintains a degree of a shared universe. And maybe it does dethrone, because it was already dethroning DC. It made DC the number 3 publisher at the time. Had they kept that up and for more, and not been just essentially, in the overall scheme of comics, a flash in the pan, maybe that continues. You hit 20 years of that. Now you got a track record on it. Now you become that. Now you are a third option. You are the third tentpole. Instead, they just ended up being like a really big support beam over on the side somewhere.
Really, the thing that might actually dethrone the mainstream, I guess, would be manga. We'll see if that growth continues. Yeah. Nightmare X123 does continue on, says the problem compounds with people holding on to the core of established brands because they like the characters instead of encouraging competition in the comic space. But if you're
That's
emotionally
changing.
attached to a character, if you want to keep supporting the character and you have hope that it will turn around, because they can't write bad, Captain America comics for 20 years. It can only be 15, right? Eventually it's got to turn around. So
it's weird because there's 200 issues, right from when Roger Stern, John Byrne were doing Cap, all the way pretty much through Heroes Reborn. There's bumpy parts, but overall it's pretty good.
Here's the thing,
but
Joe.
The
and I
John
think
A.
this speaks-
Riber stuff wasn't that good.
Sure, but
to Joe's point, I think in recent times it's confounding to me, but it makes sense now just based on what Joe said, which is Marvel has a very short memory span. Everything becomes about recent, because if you were to say, hey, we have this legacy of stuff that goes all the way back and is significantly more powerful and robust than what you're reading now, it diminishes their offering. It makes them go actually, this stuff isn't all that good. The good stuff is, Serpent Society. Go read that freaking, Captain America run, And I think that's, this is my tinfoil hat wearing version, but I think that's deliberate. I think you don't want to highlight something that's pre-existing in the past, because what you want is people, front-facing and paying attention to what's directly in front of them, and it's not really the best offering for their product.
Yeah, we know that when Jim Lee and Dan Didio a couple of years ago were at Comic-Con, they were asked about some of the reprints, and Dan Didio admitted some of the reprints of classic material outsell with the same character the modern stuff. When they do the reprint, it's the same price. They still charge $4 for it. And I think that was a message to the publishers.
That says a lot.
And they've tried a lot of different strategies, but nothing has really worked. But I understand where Nightmare X here is coming from, but I also understand where the people like Doc are coming from. He's emotionally invested in Wolverine and the X-Men, and he's not ready to give up. He wants things to get better.
Yeah, maybe I'm dumb.
Look,
Amy's dumb. That's another point.
Look, come on.
That's an entire stream among itself.
Look, there's a certain thing in a comic collector's brain that keeps them coming back,
Yeah.
And mine is X-Men.
For other people, it's other things, but
for sure.
we like going. There's a thrill that we get going into a comic store, even a virtual one. And other people are like, "Why would you even want to do that?" Oh, they have greeting cards. I'll stand out here while you get your stupid stuff.
These same people who criticize you going in because of your affinity towards something will just immediately and mindlessly buy the next iteration of an iPhone. You know what I mean? It's like it's the same muscle that you're flexing in your head because you really have an attachment to this product, regardless of how much it's not really serving you anymore.
Have you ever seen the Crumb documentary?
No.
By any chance, anybody here?
No.
He has a big old thing where he talks about merchandising and branding and how it's gotten out of control. And this is like in the 90s, and he's like, just take a look at everybody walking down the street, and like the film, goes to all the people on the street, and it's just one big commercial.
Yeah.
And we're living in one big commercial.
No, it's funny. Before he passed away, I was pretty close with Howard Cruz. And he was an underground cartoonist around the same time as Crumb, and he had a story about they used to write letters back and forth, and at some point Crumb was just like, "I'm just driving around the country, going to different garage sales. Can I come by and crash with you?" And he crashed with Howard for a couple of days because there were just yard sales going on in the area, and he was just traveling the country, going from yard sale to yard sale. And I think that's Crumb's a real interesting guy, basically, is where this is going.
But even he had a collector mentality also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yes, Wes.
Nightmare X also, he said, last on this point, is Alterna Comics too unknown to succeed where Image failed? Well, Image had a lot of financial backing. I mean, Alterna Comics is great. I admire what Peter Smeddy's done and what he's built essentially on his own.
Yeah.
But he is running that, kind of out of his apartment and out of a storage space. And he doesn't, they used to be distributed through Diamond. I was able to order them through my comic shop even here in the Philippines. But, he's gone away from that model, and now he's distributing directly to comic book retailers, which is good because it cuts out the middleman, and the profits go up, and you're able to sell the comics at a cheaper price. But also, you have to go to Alterna to get the comics. I know Uel, I'm not sure if you have a business relationship with Alterna, but it makes it different than going out and getting something like an Image or Marvel or DC.
Oh yeah, and I have in the past. I have not recently. Oh God, so many different places to order from now.
Oh yeah, no, but and this isn't to diminish. This isn't to diminish Alterna or anything, but there's a few small publishers that it's not even just being unknown. It's just you only have the bandwidth to put out so much stuff when you're the size of Alterna. You're not like Image putting out 50, 60 books a month, where a publisher,
and your print runs are limited as far as how big they can be. So.
Yeah, and you're not attracting the level of talent, And again, it's not just Alterna. It's Scout, it's Source Point Press, it's all these smaller publishers. They're not getting a book that's out by, Rick Remender or, has got art from Mike Diodato or something like that.
Hey, yeah, Rick Remender, you want to really show us how awesome you are. Go do an Alterna 6-issue run. That would be, now talk about mind-blowing. Something like that would happen. That'd be, what?
Yeah.
Mike Mignola's going and
takes
doing
money
an issue
for
of
those
Alterna?
things, right? If you had a nice angel backer that went in there, but that would be a difficult decision for Peter Smeddy because he would have to give up a percentage or a portion of his business probably just to get that type of back.
I have to think that consistently referring to Image as sort of the, I mean that's ideal, obviously, because it happened, and to Doc's point, it was really, really close to sort of replacing DC in that second spot. But I think in as far as an event or as a blip, that happened already, and I don't know if that could happen again, right? So it's going to be something different. So it's to institute what happened then and saying that's probably doable right now. I don't think so. It's going to be something completely out of left field where people are going to go, wow, that was a weird way for that to turn out. And I'll tell you this, Marvel and DC are not helping themselves.
No, like it would. The weird thing that's set up now is like, imagine if Substack ends up being this like massive success, and we're all like,
For
that's
sure.
weird. That's
For sure.
you know, I don't think it will, but
Right.
you
Well,
know,
I think
it's
Substack runs the same thing like most independents. Again, you know, there's nothing other than that person
Right.
to really focus on. And if you're looking at it like I look at it, I need to sell this stuff. Spider-Man brings them in, and then Love and Rockets keeps them. You know, that type of thing.
For sure.
Hopefully.
Yep.
So we've got Kenneth Dowling says, if I was looking to start reading some indie comic books, what would you guys recommend? I just did a video with my good friend Drew from Comics Elite. I think it's like 28 minutes, but like 20 of it are all indie comics. So I would recommend you go check out that video. There's at least like 10 or 15 indie comics that we recommended. I'll let the other panelists give their ideas. Yul, what would you recommend on the indie scene right now?
On the indie scene right now, get Backstar. That's my favorite one.
Oh,
And
Arc
snapshot that photo of.
I can't wait for Arc Athena, but you know, I gotta read
Thanks,
it
you
first.
guys.
Yeah.
Carrie, you cover and read more indies than
Yes.
anything else. Is there anything that stands out to you that you think people should be reading right now?
Well, I just did a review on Once and Future from Boom Studios,
Oh, that's
which
cool.
is really good.
Mhm.
That's really good.
That's Kieran Gillen,
Yes.
and Dan
And-
Mora, right?
Dan
Yeah.
Moore. Yes.
Yeah.
So good. He's a
And
good
from
artist.
Alterna, I'm actually really into Tinseltown and Red Koi.
Tinseltown's excellent. What a
Yeah.
Tinseltown
fun
is really
book.
good. Like an old school
I like
detective comic.
Yes.
Yep, that was a lot of fun. All right, Joe. I'm not. We've already had Backstar thrown out there. Is there
Sure.
anything else that you think people should be reading on the indie scene?
Also Nottingham. That's good for
Absolutely.
Man Cave.
That
You
was
know,
fantastic.
it's the first arc at least is done, but what was it? We Live from Aftershock was
Mm-hmm.
that was great. It depends. If you could also go back, there's a lot of older
Back issue.
indie stuff
He
like
said current. He said current.
yeah.
Boo.
No, but what was it? But did he say current? It was Start.
No,
he did. I said Kurt.
He
That was
did.
my bad.
You said current, but yeah, like I would like you also with Love and Rockets. Like if you've never really dabbled in indie, Love and Rockets. Also, if you haven't dabbled in indie and you lean more into superhero stuff, Zot's great.
That's not available.
Nice.
Don't-
All right, Doc. What do you say on the indie?
A
You
Zot
can-
ref
what,
pull.
Used.
what do you recommend, Doc?
Honestly, there's not a lot really out there that I'm terribly interested in that I've come across. I really like the stuff that, I really like Soul Finder that Doug Ernst has done. I really like what Tim Lims and Mark Pellegrini's been working on with
Definitely go support Iconic Comics. Those guys are doing great things.
Yeah, iconic comics is great. Obviously, I'm going to once again, for like the 3 millionth time this stream, try to sell people on going and backing Arc Athena, because goddamn, Eric, I just really like the love. I just love your art.
Thanks, man.
No, there's I have liked Geiger. I don't know if I really consider that an indie though. I mean, it's an image book, but
Is that indie? It's indie enough, I think.
yeah, it's not big too.
Right.
I've liked Geiger, but yeah, that's.
Oh, have you read Berserk? No, Berserk.
That was the one I was just about to recommend you,
sorry.
based on something
job,
that
Yul.
Wes said months ago.
Yeah, Berserk for
Go.
Boom Studios. Obviously, that's the Keanu Reeves with who else we got on that? We got Ron Garney and Matt Kipp.
Yep. And then the
Oh,
other
I
one
was
that
thinking
you.
Barbaric. Have you seen Barbaric?
That's
Michael
the other.
Morris,
Damn it,
that was
Yul.
great.
Damn it.
Sorry, that's the one I meant.
Those are the two things I was gonna come up
You
with.
guys
I just,
kept talking about new stuff, and I wanted to get one more in.
no, Barbaric is awesome. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
floored by how good that book looks and reads. Thank
Yeah,
you very
that
much for that, Wes.
Bloodthirsty axe that gets
Yeah.
a drunk off of human blood is just
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've been a
I mean,
big
it's-
Michael Marici fan for a long time. So
It's such a simple concept, and I almost kicked myself. I'm like, it's just an axe that really just wants to drink blood so he can get drunk on it. It's like as close to Gummy Bears as you can get. You know what I mean? Like the Gummy Bears animated series.
Yeah,
Like,
with
this
they
is
get
so
hammered and
simple.
bounce around the forest. Yeah.
So simple. Make things complicated with superhero teams. What am I doing? You know?
Thank you very much, Kenneth Dowling. We got some. We went a little off track there. Anyone have any final words on IDW going to PRH? I imagine there'll be some other publishers going with the
Here's
Penguin Random
something.
House
Why
stuff.
is that a big deal that they're going? Is it a big deal?
Yes.
Well, it's certainly it's bad for Diamond because they're becoming a wholesaler once again for another publisher, and they're losing their ground. So Marvel's your number one publisher; they lost them. DC is their number two publisher; they lost them over a year ago. Number three would be Image, so that's now their number one. Number two, kind of Boom is still in there, but IDW would have been their number two. Is probably number three now.
So
they've
it's not a big
lost
deal.
three
It's
of
not
their
a big deal
last-
for IDW and Penguin Random House. It's a big deal for Diamond.
It is a big deal for Diamond, potentially for IDW, depending what Penguin Random House brings to the table. There are a lot of thoughts that Penguin Random House has access to a lot more places that comic books have not been for a very long time, to release them in like digest format and other things. So they might be able to do more as far as getting the brand awareness out.
And Penguin Random House has the overall cash flow to attempt something like spinner racks or something similar in non-traditional, well, actually old traditional markets that have long since been abandoned by the direct market.
It's definitely shaking things up, and we're seeing another one of the obviously the big two have already moved on, and we're starting to see some of the bigger indie publishers moving on as well. Image, of course, has said that they will be staying with Diamond, but hey,
yeah, sure.
That pledge was a few months ago.
Right.
You mean Image is going to own Diamond? You mean?
Probably could at this point. So I think we've covered that one. Let's move on. We'll try to go a little bit faster, but we've got Spider-Man versus Batman. Who wins, Doc? You being the Marvel aficionado, even you have to admit Batman would kick Spider-Man's ass.
Yeah, probably. We're back to the, how much prep time does
no
Batman
prep time?
Get?
He's got
no prep time.
No spider spray.
Honestly, if it's no prep time, then Spider-Man kicks the shit out of him.
Wait a second.
He can throw him off a fucking.
This is not my answer.
Sorry,
but if there is a Spider-Man in Batman's universe, he's already prepped for it.
Yes.
Yeah. But if Batman falls into the Marvel universe and has to go directly up against Spider-Man, Spider-Man kicks the shit out of him.
But has Batman already thought about this happening? Maybe he's just prepared for it because he's Batman.
I'm sorry, but
Spider-Man holds back. What if he holds back on Batman? You think Batman's going to hold back and not shoot a batarang right up his ass?
And he has a Spidey sense for exactly this purpose.
That's right. I really like how they use it in Nonstop Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, I love the way
sense.
Joe Kelly's been using that in that book. It's that it actually.
It's like move, dummy.
Yeah, it's actual it's narration, but with that hand drawn lettering, like the old style for sound effects, rather than the stuff from Comicraft that everybody started using in the late 90s and 2000s, but every once in a while you'll still get an artist that wants to letter in his own sound effects, and Chris Bacalo's doing that over there, and I love it because it's actually move, dummy, or no, not that left, your other left. And shit like that, and it's actually really funny.
All right, Joe, you were a professional writer. If they gave you the Batman Spider-Man book, who's going to win, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is an awkward question for Batman Day, but
Batman Day, I forgot about that.
But
That's right.
But yeah, so. I lean towards Batman, but it does depend a bit, especially if we're talking high school or college Spider-Man. I think Batman definitely has an edge.
Batman's not above throwing a line around Aunt May and hanging her off a building to get some information on Peter and how to beat him.
Oh, for sure. But
he'll beat a confession out of anyone, including that old lady.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, Peter's dealt with people like the Punisher and stuff like that before. He has an idea of how to deal with some people who don't play by the rules and things like that. But yeah, I lean Batman here. I think Spider-Man still has a shot, depending, but it's definitely odds are in Batman's favor.
I agree with you. We got Kenneth Dalley chiming in. He says, there's a show called Death Battle. Don't know if you guys would watch it. They have popular characters fight to the death. They had this battle a long time ago. You forgot to give us the ending. Who won?
It was. I think isn't he talking about the old like celebrity death match?
Oh, it was on MTV?
On MTV. Is
the
that
Claymation stuff? That was great.
Yeah.
There was a podcast that did this kind of shenanigans also.
Yes.
And they would go really in depth in like what these people brought to the table, like Star Trek versus Star Wars or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
Really dorky.
All right, I'm on the wiki on this thing. Let's
Not
see
like
who they
this.
say wins.
Not at all.
Oh, number 5 is results. Let's get to this bad boy. Where is it? Death Battle.
So Kelly, who wins?
Is Wes
Batman or
like, what do you call
Spider-Man?
it? Scrolling through the death
Yes.
battle?
Yes, he is. He is live looking this shit up.
Oh my goodness.
This is good for
This is
ratings.
bullcrap.
Right here. Give us a thumbs up.
Despite
everybody.
Batman possessing more skill and knowledge, Spider-Man's abilities ultimately overpowered his arsenal.
Damn right.
Get out of here. This death battle thing is
I
bullcrap.
think the ability to lift.
What are you doing,
building
Kenneth?
over a
You ruined the
person's
stream.
When you can go hand to hand with the Hulk, you're also almost as smart
head.
as
That's before
Batman.
the Hulk even wakes up. He can.
Batman's gone hand to hand with Superman.
Yeah,
Tell you
with
what.
Kryptonite.
Well,
There-
yeah, he
Spidey
assessed
don't
the
got no
situation.
fucking kryptonite.
Listen,
Sure he
bug
does.
spray
Mary
probably
Jane,
gets
right?
Spidey out of the situation.
Yeah, man.
Batman has shark repellent. You tell me he didn't got Spidey repellent? Get out of here.
That's a good point.
You know
I
he's
watched
not an
that
actual
movie.
Very good
spider,
point.
right?
What's
You know he's not an actual spider, right?
He's got spider DNA in him. He's probably sensitive.
My favorite thing is when Craven would call him insect. And he'd be like, I'm not an insect, you fool. You're supposed to know
I
about
love that,
animals.
Wes. Well, he's got spider DNA. He's probably sensitive to.
Yeah, he's got to be. You get a little spider spray.
You know what? You know who else is
Oh, boy.
who is sensitive to bug spray? People. You know why? Because it's just fucking poison. It's just not concentrated enough to hurt people.
Oh, wow.
Yes, Kenneth Dalley, you are
Oh,
correct.
you
No,
guys.
not death match. It's death battle. Spider-Man won. Yeah, I get it now. It was a great battle. They just had Batman versus Iron Man. Watch it on YouTube. If Batman doesn't whoop Iron Man's ass, then this whole death battle thing isn't even real anyway. There was somebody brought something else. This one's for you. This is a
You're
doc
right,
special.
it's not real.
And thank you very much to Kenneth Dalley for supporting the channel. I do appreciate it, even if I talk a little smack every once in a while. Samuel Sierra says, Doc, Lobo versus Wolverine fixed the screw-up finish from years ago.
Oh, Lobo just rips him in half, and then
That
probably
wouldn't kill Wolverine.
throws him in the sun.
Well, that would do it. That'll do her.
Lobo would. He'd throw him into the fucking sun. After he's probably ripped all of his appendages off. He'd be like the fucking Black Knight in
Monty
Holy
Python, the Holy
Grail.
Grail.
Yeah, like, you know,
No,
it's
the
but a
flesh
scratch. It's just a flesh wound. Motherfucker, you don't have arms or legs anymore because Lobo ripped them off.
I don't know. Lobo did take out the new gods, and I think he killed Darkseid, right? Recently, he probably could take out
Probably.
Wolverine.
Yeah, he could take Wolverine. Sorry, I love Wolverine, but Lobo could kick the shit out of Wolverine.
Yeah, that's kind of
He-
Wolverine. He could take a licking and keep on ticking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, look, Lobo can go hand to hand with Superman, and you know, Wolverine could fucking stab him all over. It won't even phase him.
The main man's got the advantage. There you go. Sorry, Samuel Sierra. I think Doc screwed that one up too, man.
Sorry, that's I don't like making that admission, but you know, you rip his arms off, and then you
Lisa
throw him into
Roberts
the
like
sun.
he can't rip his arms off. They're adamantium.
We have joints. Our bones don't actually
He's
connect
got
to each other.
adamantium joints. He's got adamantium tendons, man. Come on.
He doesn't have adamantium tendons.
You don't
He
know
has
that.
an adamantium voids. The voids between bones. You know what? Then Wolverine is just he's a statue then. Okay, cool. You
We've seen
beat him
Wolverine's
'cause
statue. He
Yeah.
needed his
You know
hot claws to get out.
do you know what you don't do with a statue? You don't got to fight it because it doesn't move. You're done.
All right, Uel Carter, set him straight. Let him know Wolverine's made of adamantium. Nobody's ripping his arms off, unless you're Magneto
I
or
think
somebody.
he's right about the.
Oh God, Doc is not right. That's not the name of the podcast.
Sorry.
That is the name of the podcast.
You know-
Doc is right.
I don't normally get into these conversations at the comic store. I let people know it's a little uncomfortable to book fights, and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. Wolverine, I've seen him get burnt up to his skeleton and then come back from that. So as long as there's some DNA, I guess there's a chance.
That's why you throw him into the sun.
I
There's
guess
no
there's a
DNA
chance.
then.
I don't know how it works.
I've never been
What
to
if
the
all
sun
15
before.
versions of Wolverine show up at the same time and then they attack Lobo?
What if he throws him in at night? What then, huh?
Yeah, it's like,
This is devolving into some weird space.
all right, we've devolved too much for somebody as classy as Eric. Let's move on. I guess people.
I'm not saying it's
think
too much. I'm just saying it's devolving.
Spider-Man likely would beat Batman. I'm still in Batman's corner. I think Joe and I got
Batman.
that one right.
Well, you know what my answer
Batman.
always Batman for you. My answer
Batman.
always is it depends on which book it's in. And there you go.
Oh yeah.
Spider-Man.
Or
My
as Stan
goodness.
once said, it depends on who's writing. It just depends on what the writer wants to happen.
That's right.
There you go. Let's talk about these DC announcements. They had 4 new comics they announced. Oh my goodness, what did we have? We had Batgirls. We had the World of Krypton. We had, what was the third one? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. It was Swamp Thing, Green Hell, and then we had some Mark Russell book that's supposed to be funny. I think it's One-Star Squadron. Uel Carter,
Yeah.
as a comic book retailer, which one of these got you the most hot and bothered?
I'm totally down with the Mark Russell book and Swamp Thing because Doug Mahnke is doing the art, and
Doug Mankey's great.
Dude is one of the best artists for so consistently. Talk about a guy that can actually get the monthly done when it's needed, and just from the Mask to today, and all the stuff in between, he's just so solid and only getting better. So I'm down with the Swamp Thing, and I guess it's Jeff Lemire's last DC work for a long time.
Yeah.
Kenneth Dowling came in a little bit late, but we'll definitely cover it. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Very generous of you. He says, Batman and Spider-Man are literally my 2 favorite superheroes. Batman #1 and Spider-Man #2. But lately I love them equally. Batman with his skills and knowledge and Spider-Man powers are powerful, but not overpowered.
Yeah.
So which one wins?
I think the same Batman.
Batman.
The reader.
Oh,
the
I
reader
got you.
wins.
The reader wins. Batman does it with the skills. Absolutely. You are correct, Kenneth Dowling. That is the right choice. I appreciate that. Batman he'd whoop his ass. He's got a bag of tricks.
He couldn't
Batman
even
fights dirty.
punch him to the point where he'd expel air so that he'd breathe in the poison gas. That's Batman punching Spidey. That's how it'd be.
Absolutely.
He's got
Remember,
Spider-Man can take a punch. It's fine. There's nothing Batman can punch him with that would matter. He's held back cars when when he got shot in the shoulder. Hold it with his web so he couldn't get anywhere. It's nothing Batman could do to Spider-Man. Give me a break.
what's
we're
it
back
feel
on
like
the
to be
Batman
so
Spider-
wrong, Uel Carter? What's it feel like to be so wrong in a
I'm
conversation?
telling you,
like
man,
this?
there's nothing that Batman could do. Nothing.
Batman is literally prepared for everything, including an alien with spider powers
He
falling
can't
in.
punch
Wait, no, he's not.
Concrete?
He's not prepared for heartbreak, according to some of these
That's right.
Well, yes,
books that
no one
have just-
can prepare
he
yourself
did not
for
predict that happening.
for the Spider-Man can't lift tanks. That was
Yes,
that
he
was
can.
bull
he
crap.
can drop a building on a dude.
Spider-Man could pick up at least 10 tons.
Yeah, it's in the books. Don't worry about
Batman
it. Batman
defeated Superman.
You gotta play the Marvel. See, if you ever played the Marvel role-playing game from back in the day, they have these statistics, and it's all like marvelous and remarkable. And stuff
I
like that.
have Uel, and I know that.
So then you know that Spider-Man can lift 10 tons.
But he also holds
I did not
back
file it
when
away
he's
in my
fighting.
head though. That stat you have.
Spider-Man never goes full throttle, and Batman wouldn't hold back from the beginning, and he would catch him off guard.
Look at it. This guy here says Batman can't even beat the Joker. I agree.
Batman's defeated the Joker a billion times. He just refuses to murder the Joker. There's a difference.
Well, and so he's going to do that with Spider-Man.
Well, I don't know. If he doesn't know who he is, he feels like a threat.
But
Maybe
he knows who the
realizes.
Joker is, and he doesn't even go the full throttle.
I'm looking
Anyway,
at
the
Kerry
Marvels
and
book.
Joe, and I'm like, this is an interesting way to spend your guys' Saturday.
Superman admits that he lets Batman win. Oh my goodness. Are you saying like Superman's Batman's dad? I let you win. Get out of here.
Listen, going back to these DC books.
Yeah.
There's this kid who's doing the Batgirls book. His name is it's Jorge. I met him a couple times,
Corona.
but
He's awesome.
yeah, he was on the that Image book called The Me That You
Middle
Love in
West.
Dark in Middle West, and it's like, geez, Louise, this I don't know why he is whatever. If it is sort of a rise, he hasn't shot up so much faster. He's a great illustrator, great illustrator.
The problem is in issue 2 in the solicitations that Barbara Gordon wants to pierce Stephanie and Cass's ears, and they're scared of it. And I'm going, that might not be the comic book for me.
Is that what they say in the solicitation?
Yes.
Oh boy.
That's real solicitation, Joe. What do you think about that one? I would have put something different.
I wasn't planning on reading Batgirls, but
They're going to take a trip
now.
to the mall or something?
Wait,
like
is it
that? that
plural?
what's going on?
it's because it's
Yeah,
it's
it's
the
plural.
two Batgirls.
Oh,
the
Yeah,
art
Stephanie
looks,
Brown in Orphan.
the art looks really good, but
pretty awesome.
I read Wonder Woman, and I don't want to go through that again. So no, but as much as I actually like the writers on that, I just don't. I feel like they aren't a good, like as people. I don't feel
They aren't good
fit on
people?
that book. No,
I don't think they're good people.
You
I don't know.
said you took
I don't
a
even know who
pause.
they
but-
are.
I was meaning to say that I like those people, but and I think Becky's a brilliant artist. I really like a lot of her artwork, but I'm not feeling Wonder. It's weird because I was getting into Mariko's run, and then that kind of stopped a little too quick, and then we got into this, and I was like, ugh. Like just when I was like really getting like settled into that, it was over. But
Heel turn.
yeah, right. But
On
I am
Joe's
looking
part.
forward to both the books that you'll mention, the One-Star and the Swamp Thing there with Jeff Lemire.
That's
I've been a
gonna be
Lemire mark for a long time, so
Oh, yeah, me too.
but yeah. So that's where I'm at on those.
We got Lane
Cool.
Kramer who says, "Hey, I joined YouTuber streamers recently. Joined a Hot Toys collector stream. Even got a camera beat Perch to a face reveal. Well, congratulations! Face reveals are fun. Perch technically accidentally he revealed half his face once because he had a mask on and he put it on his community section. But I
Yeah,
think he's
or
gonna do a face
so
reveal.
we think that was him.
That's
Sure.
right.
Might not have been. You got a point
Yeah.
there. Everybody likes a good face reveal. We got Kenneth Dowling. If you want an answer, Wes, I picked Batman because he would outsmart Spidey. Otherwise, Spidey outmatches him, but I don't want them to fight. I love them. Well, hey, sometimes the people we love have to fight. And it sounds like you made the right choice in Batman. I congratulate you, sir.
Peter Parker's got a PhD, man. I mean, come on.
Batman's got a PhD in kicking ass. That's all I need to know.
I'm just talking
He's
about
from the
smarts,
streets.
man. Oh.
Spidey still has a Spidey sense.
He whips
He
up
just avoids.
like, high complex web formulas on the fly. You know, he does it when he's
Batman hands out ass whoopings on the regular. That's all I'm saying.
I'm assuming that wasn't an intentional pun of Spider-Man doing things on the fly. 'Cause
on the fly. Yeah, that guy. R.I.P. the
I feel like we need a rim shot sound effect.
Nightmare X123 says a very neglected market are gamers. Put comics in GameStop, etc. It's easy way to grow sales, and comics can easily have synergy with the products. So they did put on the products there are, as JP Market has shown with things like Deathlot or Doftech. They did put comic books in GameStops, but it didn't really work. They are doing the thing where you can get the Batman Fortnite comic book, and it has skins for that you can redeem in game, and it certainly brought a lot of people together. Whether or not that's going to bring new readers into the comic industry, we don't know. I think they could tweak that a little bit better and maybe get them onto the digital platforms. But you're right. There's definitely some crossover between people like games. Typically, they like people like comics like games. I do think that they could do that, but the GameStop thing didn't work.
I'd like to know what their idealized retention rate is. I mean, there was a huge bump, and obviously there was that was remarkable in the time that it happened. But from DC's side, I wonder what they're like. If we can just hold on to X% of these people who are buying it, we would consider this to be a success. So anytime they like, oh, that didn't work, I don't know if I can comfortably say something like that because I don't know what their game plan looks like, right? So, sure, you're gonna get 100,000 people in because of that skin sort of enticement or whatever it is, in-game skin enticement. But there must be something in the back of their mind as far as a game plan to be like, okay, let's hold on to 2%, 3%, whatever it is, and we'll call it a success. I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, and I'm sure all those artists that did the costume designs for those skins that are selling through this are all getting royalties and properly
100%, because that's how this industry works. Is fair
play.
Total fairness.
Has Fortnite ever given money to anybody for their skins? I'm not quite sure.
Thank you very much to Nightmare X123. And I want to say thank you, everyone, to the viewers. We're over 100 likes. Thank you very much. We're over, awesome. I think, at 105. If you haven't liked the video, it's free. It's a way of giving back and letting other people know that we're having a great conversation here. But definitely thank you to everybody that got us over 100. And Kenneth, please put Uel in his place. I saw Uel and Batman in there. Please put Uel in his place. Let's see what he says here. Uel, Batman has an education equal to a PhD. That's right, because he got it on the streets in biology, engineering, chemistry, forensics, anatomy, physics, and he knows finances. Peter only has 1 degree.
Dude, they both have ruined their companies. And as far as like all this stuff that he's equal to, I would just suggest he's a master of nothing by knowing so much about everything.
All that proves.
I don't know if that's PhD worthy.
All that proves is Batman has a lot of free time.
He has a lot of free time. Oh yeah, he's getting a PhD in biology while he's getting Olympic level training going on physically. Also, that's just ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Okay. Uel Carter has obviously lost it. So before I have another series I want to talk about. But Eric, it sounds like our time has to come to an end. You have some things that you have to take care of.
I do.
I want to say thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations on the success of Arc Theta.
I'll take it. Thank you.
As I mentioned, there's a link in the video description. Do you have any final words?
No, that's it. Thank you for having me, panel. Thank you for driving down the bus, letting me ride on the bus of who's better, Batman or Spider-Man. And every time we tried to go back on Main Street, somebody would jerk that wheel right back down to the other avenue. I found it very entertaining. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you for chat. Wes, as always, a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eric.
Congratulations. Definitely support Arc Theta if you get the chance. And that was a lot of fun. So, people haven't mentioned World of Krypton yet from my favorite writer, Robert Venditti.
Yeah,
Uel, they've done World of Krypton before, and I wouldn't read this comic book if Robert Venditti wasn't writing it. But you're damn straight up, Robert Venditti on a Superman-related comic book. It's gonna be great.
I love Venditti. I think he's really good, and Superman's a perfect. He's already doing that the Christopher Reeve one.
Yeah.
And that one was really good. So now that he's going to get to do Superman it's not Superman, it's World of Krypton. He's going to get to lay some foundation, maybe have some cool stories of Superman's past or his people's past. And I'm down. I'm down.
All right, Kerry, do you have any final words on the DC announcements? Any of these?
Truthfully, out of all of them, I think the only one that really interests me is Swamp Thing.
Are you a horror fan?
I like horror.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
All right.
Have you read Swamp? I mean, are you versed in Swamp Thing? That's what I want to know.
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh man, you're so lucky. You're gonna go back and read all the Swamp Things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, the Alan Moore Swamp Thing is amazing. There's even a good Tom King Swamp Thing, shockingly.
Oh yeah, no, that winter special was solid.
Amazing.
Yeah, I have Alan Moore's coming.
Nice.
Oh,
Excellent. Oh, you're in. All right. No spoilers.
So jelly.
That's good. Yeah.
These.
The Nancy Collins omnibus, I think, is back in print now too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So Kenneth Dowling says, seriously, thank you for the comeback, Uel. That was funny.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I want to say thank you to Kenneth Dowling for keeping it real and putting Uel in his place. That's what I appreciate. We've also got Lay Kramer says, oh, what rumor Bendis could be the Batman writer. He's not going to be the Batman writer. Although originally he and Tom King were eventually going to swap. Tom King was going to move to Superman and Bendis was going to move to Batman, but they both screwed it up so badly that they had to get other players. So perhaps he will write a Batman miniseries, but there's no way they're giving Brian Michael Bendis the Batman book. They already killed sales with Tom King, and they can't do that again.
I think Bendis could pull it off. If he was ever going to pull anything off, it would be Batman, don't you think, though?
Oh,
no.
I do.
Okay, very good.
No,
I think Green Arrow would be better, but I get what you're saying.
Green Arrow would be
cool,
cool
I think
too.
he'd probably do solid on Green Arrow. He did fine on that. His Batman that he did, with Nick Darrington.
Yeah, those were the Walmart.
That was the 100-page Giants.
Yeah, that was fine. That wasn't.
Wait, we're talking Bendis on Batman.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, I think he'd be fine. His best stuff is when he's writing crime stuff.
Yeah,
so if he went full detective story on it and minimized the superhero side and kind of went with a big long overarching mystery that Batman was investigating, I think he'd actually do pretty well with that.
I think it'd be great if he went over to X-Men and turned that into a crime book, and then you could read that, Doc.
Batman is supposed to be. It's literally called Detective fucking Comic.
X-Factor is an investigative team, Doc.
But yeah, the Question, I think Bendis could have done some cool stuff with.
Absolutely.
Either one.
Yeah.
So
yes,
there are
world's
fits definitely
greatest
DC.
detective.
Not the world's greatest dad, which is important.
So besides all the DC announcements, we did have some Marvel announcements. They've got a return to the Old Man universe in the Wastelanders 5 one-shots. We're getting Hawkeye, we're getting Wolverine, Doctor Doom, Black Widow, and Peter Quill. So we're getting Star-Lord. They also have, we got the end of Hellions ending in December. I thought that was quite depressing. And there's another announcement. Oh my goodness, have I lost it? We've got the Thunderbolts coming back in the Devil's Raid event. We've got a new Thunderbolts team. Doc, you are the Marvel aficionado. Which one of these? We'll take Hellions off the board because we already talked about the canceling of Hellions. What are your thoughts on those other two? Are you more excited about the Old Man Logan, or are you more excited about Devil's Raid?
I'd have to say Devil's Reign, and even that's because it's mostly because that's the one I'm less rolling my eyes at. The old man stuff. Jesus Christ, will you let this fucking go? Mark Miller did this for 12 issues 15 years ago, guys. Come on. It was fun. It was a good time. It was a good story. Jesus Christ, they've gotten more mileage out of this fucking throwaway arc than ever should have been made. And the fact that they won't let it die. I mean, after the Old Man Logan's solo book ended, and then they went to Dead Man Logan, and that ended, and now they started doing the Old Man Quill, the Old Man this, the Old Man that. Let it fucking die. The amusement of some of these things, especially these alternate realities, is in the mystery of it. Once you start exploring it, you lose all the interest in it. It stops being interesting.
Yeah.
Man, Doc is very passionate about the old man universe dying. Uel Carter, which one of these announcements were you most intrigued by?
I'm going to parrot Doc and move this conversation along. Believe it or not, I don't have any connection with the Thunderbolts or really the Daredevil stuff that's going on. I know there's going to be a certain amount of people that will like it. Same thing with the old man stuff, but I'm not looking to go too crazy and have it in my store so they'll sit on the shelves in any capacity. You know, it's just it feels very. This is like a loaf of bread that's going to get stale, and the people that want it at that time will be very happy.
Were you as sad about Hellions as we were?
No, I didn't care. I mean,
you don't care when good comics are canceled.
X amount of comics that I sell every month that are the Hellions, and it's not something to sneeze at. So that's not good. But it will just be something else. Don't worry about it.
Likely it will be. What do you think, Joe? What did you think about these Marvel announcements? Anything got you hot and bothered? I got you.
I don't know. We'll see what all the relaunches are when they happen. But you know, Hellions being the whole X line's going to be canceled and relaunched for the most part. I'm sure some of the books might not be, or there'll be new books.
Well, they have said that they're basically not publishing many X-Men comics while that 10 Lives of Wolverine, 10 Deaths of Wolverine series is going on for 3 months. And I think you're right. I think they are relaunching and retooling a bunch of them.
Yeah, you know, and maybe we'll get 10 Jobs of Wolverine, and we'll get to see Wolverine working in different industries.
10 Dreams of Wolverine, and one of them he's a barista.
10 costumes. 10 costumes of Wolverine.
Just 10 Wolverines.
Yeah. They already got 10 of them. We could pull them out.
Might as well do it.
Well, the important thing is what people are interested in these characters is how unique they are. So water that down as much as possible.
Got to take everything important about the character away.
What everybody wants.
Yeah, that's a recipe for success. But yeah, I don't know. Anything that doesn't have Captain Krakoa in it, I'll probably be all right with to an extent.
See, my question is, now, since they're going to be basically relaunching, I want to see how short of a run Jerry Duggan's X-Men actually gets before it gets yet another number one. I'm going less than 6 issues before they slap a new number 1 on it.
All right.
Could happen. There's nothing saying that it wouldn't.
I don't know.
Because I don't think it's coming out in January, and that'll be at around issue 5.
Yeah.
4 or 5. So we might actually end up with a 4 or 5 issue volume of X-Men, just to show how terrible generic Duggan is.
They could go weekly for a while, and then
They could.
Then jam a bunch like it was the Rosenberg run or something.
I also don't understand. They made a big deal about getting Victor LaBelle, and he's writing a Sabretooth solo book. What?
To be honest, I'm still surprised that anybody actually gives a fuck about the LaBelle. But
like,
okay.
I'll probably check that out just out of the sheer what factor of it, and I'm willing to be blown away or impressed by it or whatever. We'll see. But you scouted out a known writer, mostly known outside of comics, and Sabretooth solo book.
Seems a little odd.
What? What's happening?
All right, Kay, we'll give you the last word. And Kenneth Dowling did like the 10 Wolverines idea. I'll agree with that. That was a pretty good one. Kay, what are your last thoughts on these Marvel announcements? It's pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, I'm really over the old man Logan stuff, and I'm kind of over the old superhero thing. They just announced Buffy. They're doing that with too, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
If I had to choose, I'd probably do. I don't know.
Del Rey's going to be great. Chip Zdarsky and Marco Cicchetto.
Yeah, I might
shall see.
out.
Marvel's announcements pretty depressing, Doc.
I would be into the honestly, I think if I actually gave a shit about this Daredevil run, and honestly, I'm not a huge Daredevil fan. I'm really not. And it's not that I think this run is good or bad. I literally have just not cared enough to read it. Last time I cared enough to read a Daredevil series was when Brubaker was on it. So, that's neither here nor there. I think that it's going to be good. I just don't know if I care. That's my problem.
It's going to have the X-Men. It's going to have Spidey in it. Maybe you'll care.
That's shoehorned bullshit. The same way that Empire had X-Men in it. And
you read it though?
No, I didn't. Oh wait, yeah, I did. In those, but only the ones in the actual X-Men title. I didn't read the Empire X-Men miniseries. Same way I didn't read the King in Black X-Men miniseries. That's that tacked on shoehorned bullshit that I'm done supporting.
All right, well, let's move into this. We've got Denis Villeneuve came out. Obviously, he's the man behind, was it The Arrival? He's got the upcoming Dune movie. And he says that the MCU and superhero movies have turned fans into zombies, kind of echoing what Martin Scorsese got in a little bit of hot water a couple of years ago. Or was it even 2 years ago? About saying that basically the MCU has ruined filmmaking. Now, Joe, I know you're a big fan of movies.
Yeah.
And you're a big fan of the MCU. Do Denny and Martin Scorsese have a point? Is the MCU ruining film?
Yeah. I mean, it's I love movies and I love art in cinema and all of that. These aren't art, same way as like the Fast and the Furious movies or the Transformers movies also aren't art. They're fun. Like, I can
you
go
shut
out
your whore mouth.
fun.
Fast and Furious is great.
But like,
masterpiece.
But there's like, we can all want and do different things with entertainment and just be in different moods for different things. Like, sometimes I like to go out for a nice dinner and go see like a play, and then other times I like to get hammered at a dive bar and watch a trashy movie. Like, we can do different things.
After stumbling your way into like a fucking Five Guys at 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's like I've run the gamut. I think a lot of people have to an extent. It's like, yeah, I feel like saying ruining movies is a little bit of an extreme when movies were already ruined well before now. I mean, there have been a lot of bad movies over the years.
Well, I think you can't make a movie that isn't a big tentpole blockbuster superhero Fast and the Furious type movie anymore. If you want to make a movie like that, in Scorsese's case with The Irishman, he has a track record of making movies like that and being successful. He had to go to Netflix just to get it distributed.
Yeah, but like there's Netflix now and streaming services, that created this weird gap where either a movie had to be really big budget or really low budget to get into theaters, and
everything in the middle just died.
Yeah, those like $20 to $50 million movies were really dying out.
Yeah, that's what I meant before about like the only home run hitter type movies. That's all they're going for.
Yeah, it's like you either need to be gunning for $1 billion, or you need to be a movie with like an under $10 million budget that like a comedy or rom-com or something like that, where it's like you make 30 million at the box office globally, and you're like, slam dunk, we made it. So
found footage horror too. That one's a good.
Remember they had that. All the big studios would have like these little artsy studios underneath them, and they would do those mid-budget, slice of life, maybe romance type of movies. But they've all just died. They're gone.
Yeah, and
Spotlight.
Yeah, stuff like that. We got Kenneth Dowling. He says, "I saw your video with Doc talking comics by the big two. I want to say I love the Marvel universe and characters. It's set in the real world except a few places, but it feels grounded. But the comics suck." You got a point there. Doc and I have another video kind of following up on that one that'll be coming out next week. But, thank you very much, and I'm glad you enjoyed that one. We got a little feedback on that one. People weren't happy. Good job, Doc.
Good.
You ruined the channel.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
I did my job.
What do you think, Uel Carter? You're not as into movies. Does it feel like superhero movies have ruined the whole entire film industry?
Well, I wouldn't say they've ruined and if I remember correctly, he's talking about cinema. And I don't know, maybe it's more like a more of a grandiose, thing more than just movies. It's like the viewer is being changed to be accustomed to follow the beats of the way a movie goes, and almost all those movies are Marvel movies.
Very formulaic, yes.
Yeah, and I mean, really, is there any difference between that and another Disney movie? And how many movies or companies does Disney own? And other people have to. You can even read in comic books where the people are trying to emulate scripts and the way things are written on TV and stuff like that, and it's affecting us and our brains. And if you don't search out all that other stuff that's out there, art and stuff like that, it is ruining cinema. That big C cinema. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because you're right, I didn't care about movies anymore, film anymore. But there was a time when I did, and I've gotten old. I have so very little time left that I can't waste my time with Marvel movies.
So, Kerry, you're a movie fan. We just saw Christopher Nolan no longer wants to do movies through Warner Brothers because he knows it'll be distributed at the same time on HBO Max. He wants his movies in theaters. Right. Do you think that the MCU and superhero movies have contributed to this decline, where it's all popcorn, big blockbuster, mindless movies?
Well, I think it's because another point I wanted to make about this was that the MCU's gotten so big that people are just running to see the movie no matter what the quality of that movie is anymore. I feel like if you go back to the earlier phases, each movie kind of stood out a little more from one another, and now I kind of feel like they are carbon copies. They're all following that same humor more often now. It doesn't feel like one is distinct from another.
Sorry, Doc, we interrupted you earlier. What were you going to say?
Wait, what?
You were going to jump in earlier, and I accidentally cut you off. What were you going to say there, Doc?
I have no idea. I don't remember.
All right. Well,
Honestly, I don't.
I've got to. Let's burn through these. We got one last thing. We did lose Norm McDonald this week.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was best known for being on SNL. He was the news anchor, just a fantastic comedian, really a hilarious guy. He's probably the best guest I've ever seen on late night talk show. I've never seen anyone befuddle the host as much as Norm McDonald. I always thought it was hilarious. Kerry, what did you think about Norm McDonald, in his legacy?
I won't say I was the biggest fan of his, but I felt like he was one of the last comedians that actually took chances with his comedy. I think a lot more now are kind of like too afraid to be edgy because of the current situation with politics and everything. I did watch him on the Orville, and so I'm wondering how they're going to fix that.
That's crazy. We've got Kenneth Daly. He says it's interesting Villeneuve is saying these comments when he's making a potential franchise himself. Absolutely.
Yes.
Dude, it's supposed to be a big tentpole franchise. But if you watch The Arrival, it's likely to be the most boring tentpole franchise movie you've ever seen.
Honestly,
Wow.
I feel like this is just his preemptive excuse making for why Dune doesn't really get the kind of acclaim that he expects it to.
You don't think it's going to?
I don't. We already have 2 good renditions of Dune. We did not need a third.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we will talk about that later. What do you
Norm
think,
doesn't
Doc?
deserve that conversation.
What do you think about
What do
Norm
I-
McDonald and in his legacy as a comedian and actor?
You know what? He's a guy that I've always loved. That really, really dry sense of humor and his timing, his comedic timing are perfect. I've never been I like a lot of different comedic styles, but his was easily the best. He's still going. He will always be. There is no one else that can do the news comedy like that, like because he did the Weekend Update, and everybody else, the entire Daily Show is patterned on copying the success that Norm McDonald and previously before him, Dennis Miller got in by doing Weekend Update. Sorry, if it wasn't for Norm and Dennis Miller, there is no Daily Show. I think the world's better off. So, in all reality, maybe it's maybe that's kind of a problem. So his legacy's not all that great.
You mean it's like Dark Knight Returns, is what you're saying?
Yeah, like that's kind of the double-edged sword of
Dark Knight Returns of comedians.
Exactly, he lived
on
long
Weekend
enough.
Update.
Yeah, but except for he left his children to become the villains, which is disappointing. But okay, but still, Norm. Yeah, Norm was. It's incredibly sad. Honestly, though, the one thing that I did not realize is that he had been suffering from cancer for like 10 years. Yeah. He'd been fighting cancer. I did not even know that.
He didn't release that information.
Yeah, he kept it private.
Okay, in which case, I actually feel even worse. Kind of the same way I guess I felt with
Chadwick Boseman.
With Chadwick Boseman, yeah. Like,
I don't even want to tell you what I said about those guys behind the curtain.
Jeez, Uel.
Both of them, even. I'm so sad. I'm so
because sad. I thought that I just figured that because let's be honest, Norm's a little outspoken, and his commentary in the world is not even remotely acceptable to the Hollywood establishment these days. Like that's not acceptable joking. Like, the amount of, if you just go back and watch the amount of times he called Hillary Clinton a bitch over like the span of 25 years is pure fucking amazing. And
hey, it was a different time then. Okay.
Yeah. And but you know what? The Hollywood fucking hates him for it. And,
well, technically they hated him for all the OJ murder jokes.
Right.
As Samuel Sierra brings up here, murder is not illegal in California.
Yeah.
And, I guess that's what got him fired from SNL in the first place, because the head of NBC at the time was one of OJ's supporters or a friend of his. So.
Mm-hmm. No, it was.
I mean, really, because really the only people that would work with Norm at the end were Adam Sandler and all those guys that were together with from that era of Saturday Night Live.
And you wonder how Heather Antes keeps getting gigs.
No, but the real tragedy this week is when O.J. Simpson realized he could never get Norm fired again.
There you go. That's terrible.
But no, this was something I would get a bit sappy about. I went and a lot of the comedians have videos on this up on their YouTube channels. Bob Saget, Artie Lang, Bill Burr. I strongly suggest people, Nick DiPaolo, Seth Meyers, David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, Jay Leno, John Lovitz have all spoken on this. And if people are big fans of Norm, I suggest checking those out, especially Bob Saget's. His was very personal. It's long. It's like half an hour of talking about it. But Norm kind of took the baton from Andy Kaufman, because even though they're different, they both
a deadpan.
Yeah, they both did the deadpan thing, and they both looked at comedy. It felt like they were bored with it. Like they're like, I get comedy. What else can I do with this? And they would, turn it on its head, and they would do these different things. They would play with the form in a way that other comedians don't. And I think one of the more admirable things about Norm is he was always himself, and he wasn't bitter about it. He never went on, late night shows or did interviews and stuff being like, fuck SNL for firing me or stuff like that. Like, he just, they told me to do this. I didn't want to do it. They fired me. That's like that was his approach to so many things. I want to do this on my show, and they canceled it. That was his approach. And then, for him to do that when they brought him back on SNL, for him to be like, oh, either I got funnier or this show sucks. That was like, just people don't do that. He never tried to play by those rules. Every comedian, and even Bill Burr, when he talks about it, is like, I wouldn't have done that shit. Like Bill Burr, who a lot of people feel the same way, but he's like, I'd be shaking in my boots if like an NBC executive came down and said, you got to stop doing those jokes and start being funny on SNL. Like, a lot of people would have let that dictate how they were going to go. And Norm didn't. Norm like enjoyed it. I think he got like a thrill of like, I got fired. I got banned from this casino. Like, he fed into that.
He wore it as a badge of honor almost.
Oh yeah. And like, there was that whole bit on his podcast where he got, what was it? The Man Grate. And it was, he got that sponsorship, and he just made fun of the Man Grate until they pulled the sponsorship.
I don't remember that. I need to go look it
up on YouTube. It's so funny. He's just like, the Man Grate. It's like, you can cook, beef and chicken on it. That doesn't sound unique. Like, just stuff like that. It's got heavy duty grilling grates. And he just like talked about it in such a mocking way, and just had no problem. Just like people like, what was it? There was the one interview where they were talking about how Seth Meyers was like, oh, you should, like, Norm's great. I wouldn't have said this or something like that. And this guy's asking Norm about it. And then he says like, oh, Norm, like, what do you think of Seth Meyers' show? And then he just goes, it's not something I would do.
I feel like Norm might have been the like prototype for Gen Xers,
sure,
in a way. This, I don't give a shit. I will do whatever the fuck I want. I'm not going to throw a temper tantrum whenever you tell me I can't. I'm just going to go do it somewhere else. I am going to poke and poke and poke at all the soft underbelly of society that you're not supposed to poke, because I'm amused by it. And I feel like he's almost the prototypical Gen Xer, even though I guess he was 61, so he might be just like a year 3 early for Gen X.
Yeah.
All right, so Uel, do you have any thoughts on Norm?
Yeah, he was really good. He's a conversational comedian. When he was on, I saw some people say stuff like the Howard Stern show. It makes me think of other people that he had conversations with and were like him, like the Gilbert Gottfrieds out there. Mm-hmm. The Jerry Seinfelds of the world. Maybe a little bit different and not as hard hitting, but I really like Norm McDonald a lot. As you get older, you always say, oh, Saturday Night Live, it's not good like it used to be. But the news is good, and that was Norm McDonald. I liked it. Great stuff.
And I loved his thing on The View, where they try to like get him with his picture of him next to Bush. They're like, what's this all about? He goes, I don't know. I just think there should be less murder in the White House. They're like, what? He's like, Bill Clinton, he murdered that guy? They're like, you can't say that. He goes, we don't know that Bill Clinton murdered that guy. He specifically make sure he says it 6 times because they don't
like
know.
Vince Foster.
Oh, he knows how to. Yeah, exactly.
It's not a matter of public record. He murdered that guy. I was like, oh, this is great. He's like, they're losing their minds.
It was all in the delivery. Like, oh, you don't know? Like,
Yeah, he's like, I'm innocent here. I didn't, even though he's intentionally doing it. But he was able to cover it up pretty well. So obviously, it's a huge loss. Incredibly talented comedian, really funny, and one of the real gems out there, and completely fearless with his comedy. So rest in peace, Norm McDonald. You will be missed. And the world is less funny today than it was, before his passing. So that's sad. Let's wrap this show up and get to the comic book recommendations. Uel, what are you guys recommending down at Fantastic Comics this week?
Well, the best-selling book this week was Primordial, and I have yet to read it, but I'm really looking forward to it. Jeff Lemire's writing, Andrea Sorrentino's doing the art. Just last week, May's book by Lemire, who's also doing the art, was very good, and I'm looking forward to this one. It was kind of a slow week, actually. There were things, but I'm a big fan of Not All Robots, so sorry, Joe, you don't get to say that one. I mean, you can, but sure. I really dig that one. The satire is heavy and thick in that book. It's written by Mark Russell, and it's all about robots that service us in all ways, and they are kind of getting a little disgruntled.
Yeah.
Service robots, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We depend on them. They go to work for us. They cook for us. And then they go out in the garage.
I thought you were talking about other services. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I don't doubt that couldn't be a thing, but that's not really being focused on right now.
Oh, I thought that was what the book was about. All right. Dude. So, Kerry, what do you recommended this week?
Well, besides Once and Future, which we talked about earlier, I am trying something new. I'm on Webtoons right now, and I did find this one called Eminence Reader, which is really good. It's
if you're a fan of Common America, there's a new Common America series on Webtoons as well.
I can't wait for that too. And Monday, I'm going to be reviewing Chainsaw Man on Manga Reviews.
Wait, really? What was it called?
Chainsaw Man.
Oh, Chainsaw Man. I have yet to be able to get those in my store because of the
shortage.
The shortage. Yeah. The manga shortage.
The manga shortage.
Yeah.
All right, Doc. You recommending anything this week? How about Child Magneto? You recommending that comic?
Fuck no.
It sucks so bad.
Half of one was okay.
About half of issue 1 was okay. About none of issue 2 was okay. That was a terrible comic. Honestly, I'm not joking. I walked into the comic shop. It took me 25 minutes walking around to find books from weeks ago that I didn't buy at the time that I just said because I couldn't find anything and I had nothing in my pull list this week. And I felt like it would have been a waste of time to not buy anything. So I ended up picking up some of the Extreme Carnage issues from a couple of weeks ago because I had already dropped that. And then I'm like, I guess I'll pick it back up and see if it got any better. So I picked up 3 of them and that was it. None of them were, I had nothing on my pull list that came out and no other things that were new that I could bring myself to care about.
You didn't get FF?
Fuck no.
Jared Jr. does some good work in there.
Dan Slott can eat my ass with a spoon.
All right. Sorry, Dan.
It's a very powerful statement, Doc. So,
I thought are you
Daniel disagrees with you. He's saying FF35 was good. He's recommending.
Hey,
were you
more power to
Jimmy
him.
When you say that?
No. I've always said that Dan Slott could eat my ass with a spoon.
All right. I'm just joking.
Bold statement there, Joe. What do you say? What do you recommend?
With a spoon.
Well, like you were saying, not all robots. That's been great. What else? I By the Horns issue 5. Some stores got it this past week. Others will probably get it in the next week or so, just because that's how these things work. If people haven't checked it out yet, We Don't Kill Spiders. That's another Scout book. I finally read that the other day, issue 1, and it's like a Viking and a witch that have to work together to find a serial killer. Like it's interesting. I like that one a lot. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm sure other comics came out, but but no, all that stuff's good. Some of the omnibuses that have been coming out, like that Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, like finally coming out, I'd recommend that as well. And yeah.
So we got the puppy there. I knew somebody was making some noise, Kerry. Yeah, I had the puppy for us. My dog's sleeping behind me. I'm recommending Justice League Last Ride, Chip Zdarsky, and I think it's Miguel Mendoza on art. It's been fantastic. It's one of the better, it's the best Justice League book that you can get right now. I did not read Titans United, so I'm not going to be able to recommend that one. But Time Before Time on Image Comics, not the greatest art in the world, but it's got an interesting concept. If you like the movie Looper, without Ryan Johnson, it might be worth a read. I like that one as well. But it was a very uneventful week. We did obviously there were a couple of comic books here and there. Retro Man is saying Justice League Last Ride as well. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's this month. It seems like they did a 5th week, but in the middle of the month.
DC has a 5th.
I don't think next week's going to be that big either.
I haven't looked. Don't say that, man. I need something good to read. Kenneth Dowling says, great show today. I recommend buying trades from the 80s. I will share another time. Take care, folks. Absolutely. Go buy trades from the 80s. You'll probably be happier. Unless you're going for Beckstar or Argentina, or you're supporting our good friends Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini on Comic America 4. And thank you all very much. I had a fun time today. And what do you say, Doc? What do you want to say today?
I need to remind everybody to wash your ass.
Well, spoon.
If Jimmy,
I thought Jimmy says that.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah, where's Jimmy when you need him?